Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, June 3rd, 2024, and this is a regular meeting of the Planning Board of Asbury Park. Chairwoman Kurzak, will you please call this meeting to order?
Yes, this meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coaster and Asbury Park Press by publication of the annual meeting notice and posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board and municipal website. All notices are on file with the Board Secretary. Official action may be taken on the following matters before the Board. This meeting is being recorded by APTV. Join me in the salute for the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now take roll call. James Bonanno.
Here.
Councilwoman Clayton.
Here.
Eric Gallipo.
Here.
Jim Henry.
Here.
Jeremy Hoffman.
Present.
Mayor Moore.
Here.
Daniel Shinameo.
Here.
Jen Souter.
Here.
Vice Chair Mike Goonan.
Here.
And Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here. Right, the first item on the, the first item on the agenda is the CBD redevelopment plan amendment recommendations. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
Eligible members are James, Eric, Jim, Jeremy, Mayor Moore, Daniel, Jen, or Vice Chair Mike Goonan.
Jim's not eligible.
Correct, Jim abstained.
I'll make a motion.
So Jen, second, okay. Motion, Jen, second. Okay, James Bonanno,
Yes.
Eric Gallipo,
Yes.
Jeremy Hoffman,
Yes.
Mayor Moore,
Yes.
Daniel Shinameo,
Yes.
Jen Souter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Goonan.
Yes. Jack, do we have, for that application that's moved, do we have to do a move without notice, or are we doing?
Which one?
The one that's the one, First Avenue.
Development plan.
The redevelopment plan is just going to be carried to.
Oh, it's just gonna be carried, so we don't have to say anything?
Yeah, if there's
With
going
no
to be
vote.
notice, we don't require notice. If there's notice,
Okay.
that's a directive from the mayor and council.
Okay, so we don't, okay. All right, first item on the agenda, and only item on the agenda, is 1210 Springwood Avenue.
Madam Chairwoman, I've reviewed all of the submissions to the proper form. We have jurisdiction to proceed.
Terrific. Okay, we have a couple of recusals.
Jen Souter and Councilwoman Clayton will be recusing themselves.
Thank you.
Mike, you want to come up? You want to come up? Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. John Marmora, representing the applicant, Interfaith Neighbors, Inc., a nonprofit corporation. As you know, we're here this evening for the proposed Marmora Center on Springwood Avenue between Atkins and Avenue A. The project, seated to my right, is Paul McKelvey, who's the Executive Director of Interfaith Neighbors, and he will explain the various uses that will be taking place here. There are a number of them, but we are consistent with your redevelopment plan. We hope you will agree that we worked with the city quite a bit to come to this final plan before submitting. I know there are two lengthy reports from the engineer and from the planner. I spoke with both before the hearing. We did, after receiving those reports, have a meeting here in the city. Went through them at length and provided a resubmission. They did not have time to do revised reports, but what I'll do is just
Well, we'll go through the reports and you can
decide what has, yeah,
chime
exactly.
in.
Okay.
Okay, so if you could just speak into the microphone, that would be
I'm
helpful.
very
I
sorry.
know that sometimes it's
Good
hard to
enough?
get
Okay.
closer
Okay,
to it.
there we go. Thank you. So for the record, it's block 802, lots 1, 2, 3, and 5, 1206 to 1210 Springwood Avenue. We have remote parking on Mount Pisgah Baptist, proposing it on Mount Pisgah Baptist Temple property, which is 1301-1313 Springwood Avenue. And we did provide 200-foot notice from both both properties. We have representatives, I believe, from the temple here this evening. We also, one of the uses is the Asbury Park Museum Society. We have representatives here as well. I don't intend to call them unless you have questions and would like to hear from them, although they might like to speak at the public portion of the comment. With that, I think rather than waste your time telling you what everybody's going to say, I'll turn it over to Mr. McEvely, have him sworn, and he can explain to you the exact nature of what is being proposed here.
Okay. Paul, please raise your right hand, and Sam, Donna as well. Do all of you solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give you this matter, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, Paul, please state your name and your affiliation with the applicant.
Paul McEvely, and I am the Executive Director at Interfaith Neighbors.
Okay, Donna and Sam.
Donna Miller, board planner.
Say it all out for the board. Great, thank you. The floor is yours, John.
Okay, thank you very much. So Paul, why don't you explain the history, first of all, I guess, of Interfaith Neighbors and the proposal at this intersection.
Yes, thank you, John, and thank you for hearing us this evening. So a little bit about the Interfaith Neighbors. We're 36 years young as a not-for-profit community benefit agency. Thanks, Donna.
Or just pull the mic further away from the head.
We're 36 years young as a not-for-profit agency. Our service territory is all of Monmouth County. We offer a wide array of programs, mortgage and rental assistance, which is how we started as an agency 36 years ago. We operate the senior meal program on behalf of Monmouth County, 1,000 meals a day. We develop affordable housing. We have a neighborhood revitalization plan focused on the west side of Asbury Park. We operate an urban farm also on the west side, and our newest venture, the Dr. Lorenzo Harris Jr. Early Childhood Center on Atkins Avenue on the west side for children 3 months to 4 years. All of what we do fits under an umbrella that could be broadly defined as described as building healthier, more equitable communities. We do have a special focus on Asbury Park and, in fact, on the west side, where we have an approved neighborhood revitalization plan, which makes us eligible for certain tax credits within the state of New Jersey. Some of the programs we offer are workforce development, economic development, a community food connection program. We sponsor and coordinate a West Side Mural program. We sponsor and coordinate just recently held Asbury's Got Talent, Asbury Park's Got Talent, an annual competition. We operate the Launch Center, our Launch Center on Springwood Avenue. Launch your career, launch your businesses, launch your life. At the Launch Center, we have a never say no approach. So anybody who walks to that door in search of services, we try to accommodate them. If we can't do it, we'll find someone to help them. As a community-based, I should also say that we have ongoing collaborations with many other nonprofits in town. The Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Coastal Habitat for Humanity, the Asbury Park Housing Authority, the Kazik Brothers, who operate largely on the west side, and Inspire Life, all of whom are collaborative partners on one grant or another. As a community-based developer of affordable housing, we've developed over 65 units of housing in Asbury Park alone. We operate a Pathway to Home Ownership program on the west side of Asbury Park. We build facilities on the west side for Covenant House so they could operate their Rites of Passage program there for young adults from the city who lack stable housing. And we've just completed a mixed income project, Parkview AP on Springwood Avenue at the same intersection where our application is tonight. Our largest project to date was the Springwood Center development project, which we completed in 2012. It's 27,500 square feet. It's the first new commercial space on Springwood Avenue since the civil disturbances of 1970. Interfaith Neighbors retains 55% ownership. The city of Asbury Park owns 45%. There's a location for the Asbury Park Police Department in the building. The city's senior center is in the building. Our launch center is in the building, and we have 8 affordable rental units on the 3rd floor of Springwood Center. While in construction on that project in 2010 and 2011, Interfaith Neighbors had the opportunity to buy the middle lot in the block across the street. We took that opportunity and acquired that property in 2010 as a way to protect our investment and the city's investment on the block across from Springwood Center, thinking that at some point someone would come along and want to do an assemblage there, and we owned the middle of the block. back in 2010, 2011. Little did we think that Interfaith Neighbors would have the opportunity to basically assemble the balance of the block. So of the 5 tax lots on that block across from Stringwood Center, we own 4. The only part of the block we do not own is what's occupied by the Turf Club. So the application you have before you this evening for preliminary and final site plan approval is our Memorial Center. This is a 30,000 square foot mixed-use building. On the first floor, we'll have permanent space for the Asbury Park Museum. There'll be lobbies and building services also on the first floor. The second floor, there'll be Early Childhood Learning Center for 4- and 5-year-olds, which will complement the Dr. Lorenzo Harris Center on Atkins Avenue. There'll also be programming and administrative space for Interfaith Neighbors on the second floor. And much like Springwood Center, on the third floor, we'll have 8 affordable rental units. Interfaith Neighbors intends to consolidate all of our remaining operations. They're either in the Memorial Center or in Springwood Center, moving out of our current location on 810 4th Avenue, which in our current plan, we will redevelop for 100% affordable housing, which to my memory, will be the first 100% affordable development on the east side of the tracks. That will come after we have completed the Memorial Center project. We have had 2 informal meetings with the city. Those meetings included the mayor, Councilwoman Clayton, then city manager, and other administrative staff. Based on those discussions and those 2 informal meetings, we did revise the design. The city at that point expressed some concern that we had our senior meal program slated to come into this building, which, as I say, does 1,000 meals a day for seniors all across the county. The city was concerned about traffic in this residential neighborhood, so we removed the senior meal program from the program for this building. In addition, the city expressed some concern at the time for the Early Childhood Learning Center, 4- and 5-year-olds in this building. We had pickup and drop-off points in an indented curb on Avenue A. There was some concern on the city's part, as well as our part, for safety of the children. We redesigned the site plan, so now pickup and drop-off will occur wholly on property we own within the block. And last, at the specific request of the mayor, we stepped the building back from a 0 setback. We stepped it back so we could add additional green space to the site plan, more plantings, both annual and perennial. In fact, that will be the only variance we seek this evening, having stepped the building back so we could add additional green space to the site plan. More recently, after receiving the reports from the board's engineer and planner, we met with Donna and Sam, reviewed their report in detail. One substantive change that came out of that discussion is we have redesigned the trash enclosure at the suggestion of both Donna and Sam, working with our civil engineer. So that's basically the backdrop for the project and what we intend to do there. We have our architect, our engineer, our planner, and representatives from the Asbury Park Museum here this evening to speak about the uses of the building and the design of the building. The last thing that I would say before I turn over the mic is there's been some discussion in advance of the project about the way we will meet the requirement within the Springwood Avenue redevelopment plan for public art. So I will say for the record here this evening that we are not asking for a design waiver when it comes to public art. We are a strong supporter of public art in the city. In fact, we have coordinated and paid for murals on the west side, with a 5th to come. But we do think that the best opportunity to display public art will come after the building is in its environment, and we see where is the best presentation we can have. I have spoken with Jen Hampton as the chair of the Public Arts Commission. I've spoken with Carrie Turner as the executive director of the Asbury Park Arts Council. And so we do commit to public art. At this point, we're not sure where the best location will be, but we will comply with the requirement of the redevelopment plan when it comes to public art. I think I'll stop there. John?
I don't have anything further unless there are questions from the board members.
Any questions from the planning board members from this witness? No? Any questions from our professionals?
Just not sure. So you talked about some changes that were made, drop-off, for example. Are we going to get any testimony from
yes.
Bill or somebody else about that?
Steve Carledge and Bill Fitzgerald.
Okay, no,
I'm just assuming that everything that was stated will be stated again by the professionals
In more
that are
detail.
coming up.
In more detail.
So that's why I still wanted to see if anybody had any other kinds of
It was
questions.
just, you know, as the representative of Interfaith, you have kind of the background, inner workings, experience of what you wanted your design professionals to do, so I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
Yep.
we can get what we need out of it.
Yeah, no, that'd be fine.
We'll get into the nuts and bolts now.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public that has any questions to this witness? Any questions of anything that was stated? Okay.
Hi, do you want my name?
Yes, please.
Okay. Carrie Butch, 500 Deer Lake Drive. How are you? I just wanted to ask a couple questions. One is the rental, what's the rental cost of the apartments? And they are rental, right?
That wasn't stated here yet.
Oh,
It should
what do you-
come, but it wasn't stated here
Okay,
yet.
okay.
That's okay. We'll get to it.
Oh, okay. You'll get to that? Okay.
Well, if somebody is making a,
Assuming somebody's going to testify.
yes, someone will testify to affordability.
I can address that.
Will that be you?
Yes, I can
Okay,
address that
then
now.
my mistake. Go forward. Go ahead.
So offer testimony first and then
Go
the question?
ahead. No, you can go. If you're the one that's going to testify about her question,
Well, she can sit down. Actually, let him testify. He may actually answer your question that you made.
Yeah.
He's going to continue to testify on that topic.
yes, let him, at this point.
Yes.
So why don't we let him continue to testify on that topic, and then perhaps he'll answer your question, and if not, we'll allow you the opportunity to ask.
Okay, thank you. I'll
Okay.
do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the third floor of this building will have 8 residential units, a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. The redevelopment plan requires that 20% of the units be affordable, and that those affordable units meet the uniform housing affordability controls established by the state. So of those 8 units, one of the 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedroom unit will be UHAC compliant. In other words, the deed restriction will be for 30 years, and they will meet the requirements of UHAC as it relates to income distribution for those units. That's yet to be determined, as I understand, by the city's housing administrator, and we'll have discussions with them about what the income limits are for those 2 apartments. The remaining 6 apartments we intend to be affordable. Most of our affordable housing construction subsidies come to us via the HOME program, which are HUD dollars that come to us through the County of Monmouth. Their requirements and their deed restrictions are different than UHAC. So with the expectation, and we already have an approved subsidy from the HOME program, those 6 units will be affordable, deed restricted affordable. There are different requirements in terms of income and bedroom distribution, and the affordability period for those units in accordance with the HUD criteria is 15 years. So all 8 units will be affordable. 2 will meet the UHAC standard and be deed restricted for 30 years. 6 of them will meet the HUD standard and be deed restricted for 15 years.
So, I'm anticipating the question that the woman was going to ask. We don't know the actual dollar at this point.
Well, in both instances, the state every year decides what the rental amounts can be based on both bedroom distribution and income distribution. Similarly, HUD, usually in April of every year, revises their schedule. We happen to sit within the Monmouth Ocean Mercer region, and they tell us what we're allowed to charge.
So we don't know yet.
We don't know.
But it's regulated.
Yes.
It's not our decision.
I'm just trying to ask the question.
I can give you an example. In the Springwood Center building, similarly, those are deed restricted units. We have 1 3-bedroom in the Springwood Center building, and we charge $1,400 a month for the 3-bedroom. So I can tell you informally that they are significantly below market rate.
But that is what you know of as today.
Correct.
2024, that's the number.
Correct.
We don't know what the number will be
We don't know.
when this is finished.
Correct.
Okay.
And this has been updated, right? Because in the CCH report, there was a problem with 1 bedrooms versus 2 and 3. So it's going to be a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom that are UHAC compliant.
Yes, I've already spoken with Beth McManus about that, and she tells us that a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom will need to be UHAC qualified.
Great.
Okay. Would you like to come back up? Does that answer your question? Do you have some others? You're okay? Okay, all right.
I might have a couple questions.
Go ahead.
So Paul doesn't have to get up and back. And I think you might know these more than the engineer and the architect. The preschool, 2 classrooms, how many total students?
Yes, in the Dr. Lorenzo Harris Center on Atkins Avenue, we now have 4 activity rooms. In this building, we are planning 2 activity rooms because this building will accommodate 4 and 5-year-olds. The Dr. Harris Center now is 3 months to 4. And the capacity in the Dr. Harris Early Childhood Learning Center is 36. We currently have 25 enrolled. We have had more than 100 additional inquiries for space in the Dr. Lorenzo Harris Early Childhood Center. But the space in this building, the Memorial Center, will accommodate 2 activity rooms. They'll be a little bit larger, so we'll have a few more children in each of those activity rooms because we would be allowed to, given their ages are 4 and 5 years old.
So can you give us some idea of what, because I know this is heavily regulated, how many?
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be in that 35 plus or minus
35
number.
in
4
each
and 5
room?
year olds.
Or
sorry?
in both rooms? 35 in each room?
No, 35 total.
35 total,
Right.
okay.
That is my best guess at this point.
Well, but it's heavily regulated, so someone should know that.
Steve Carledge, the architect,
Okay.
may be able to speak to that.
And also how many teachers have to be on site, how many administrators, whatever.
Right.
We'll be asking those questions also, so
Right.
we'll need to know that. Okay.
And then,
And does Interfaith operate that themselves?
Yes, we do. Anything else, John?
everybody's going to laugh except me and you. Mailboxes.
Yeah.
Just because what we've gone through on
Yeah,
with the U.S. Postal Service.
I will be happy to answer that, John. Steve Carledge might also mention it, but yes, in the residential lobby of this building, within the lobby, we will have mailboxes for the residents.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, John.
All right, does the public have any other questions that have been covered by this witness up until now? Go ahead.
Dave Duncan, Wanamasa, but also I'm developing a project on Springwood as well. So I think a great project. I love the changes, the museum on the street. I think that's going to be a great addition to the neighborhood. My only question was, one is like, what is the planned use of the museum? I guess that's going to be discussed as far as what the extent of that.
Yeah, that has not been touched
Right.
upon yet.
And then the other issue is like, how is this going to interact with the Turf Club? I mean, the Turf Club is going to be a music venue. I don't know how that's going to plan to develop. How will this childcare and the people living there, and how is that going to interact with the Turf Club, which is kind of something coming into its own?
Well, in terms of the interaction, we did have extensive discussions with Asbury Park African American Music Project, which controls the Turf Club property right now. We spoke to them for more than 2 years to see how we might integrate their intent for the Turf Club with our intent for the balance of the block. They decided that they would go their own way. We know well what their intention is, and they know well what our uses will be. So I think that even when it comes to public art, I personally think that we will be better off waiting until both the Memorial Center and the Turf Club are in their environment to determine how best we can both meet the public art requirement. But we expect to be good neighbors with them. Their intent, I think, is both cultural, historical, with a small performance venue. I think that's very compatible with the Asbury Park Museum space, which you will hear testimony on how they expect to use the space in our building, which basically will be to celebrate the culture and history that is the West Side. So I think they're very compatible in terms of adjacencies. We did submit as part of our application a detailed report prepared by a specialty consultant when it looked at the historical aspect of the Turf Club. That report has been submitted to the state and accepted by the state. The bottom line of that report was that the planned development of the Memorial Center will have no impact on the Turf Club and its eligibility to be listed on the National Registry.
Also, I'd like to find, this is for whoever's going to speak to the Child Care Center. I'm concerned, are there any regulatory issues in New Jersey or state with the children having to do with a nightclub being next door? I'm going to want to know that. I'm guessing you don't know.
Well, no.
Unless you do.
What I'm pondering right now is whether or not that will be a nightclub use. That's not for me to say. In our discussions previously over the course of 2 years, I'm not sure they represented it to us as a nightclub, but I think the architect can actually speak to whether or not there's a regulatory issue.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions to this witness based on what has been discussed?
Yes, Charles Trott, Asbury Park,
Excuse me, pardon the interruption, your address, please?
505 Langford Street. You had said something about public art. According to the illustration I saw up there, I'm just curious where it would be, where it might be. Are you talking exterior or interior or both?
Yeah, so with the Asbury Park Museum occupying the space on the first floor, I think you will hear those representatives speak to how they envision using that space, including display cases that present to the public right-of-way, the sidewalk. That would be interior to the building. We've also had a number of recommendations made to us by Jen Hampton in the exchange of conversations I've had with Jen as the chair of the Public Art Commission. She's offered a number of suggestions to how we could incorporate public art. That might include a mosaic in the entry point to the building. It might include art on the structural columns that hold up the building within the parking area. It might include art on the enclosure to the trash corral. So there are several suggestions that Jen offered that I think might work out very well. And that I think will be resolved as the building rises out of the ground. But our commitment to public art is firm, and we will comply with the requirement in the redevelopment plan.
There's still a follow-up?
All I wanted to know is, the street that's going this way diagonally, is that Springwood?
Yes,
And the one that's going in Avenue A?
it would be Avenue A.
Okay, no problem.
Hi, Paul. Mike Sedano, 4th Avenue, Asbury Park, and also the president of the Asbury Park Arts Council. I have been in discussions with Paul and Jen and Carrie. What we have to realize when it comes to public art.
Time out. Now's not the time to testify, now's the time to ask questions of his testimony, based on his testimony.
Oh.
You get another opportunity to.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
Okay, anyone else have any questions of this witness? Okay, next.
Thank you.
So the next witness we would like to call would be Steve Carlitz, project architect.
Steve, could you please raise your right hand, solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your affiliation with the applicant. Save John some time. You are a licensed architect who has appeared before us many times, and you are still licensed
Correct.
architect in good standing.
Correct.
Madam Chairman, I suggest we accept it.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, what I'd like to do is walk you through the building first in plan, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the building design and the materials that we're proposing and how this building comes together. If we could start with the first floor. As you know, this is a 3-story mixed-use building, and Paul mentioned a number of the
Can I
uses.
just ask the date of these plans, because there was 2 sets.
Date? This is the revised set,
This is the 523?
523.
Okay,
So I wish I had a pointer that would work on a screen, but I don't.
well, you have someone that is pointing.
But what we can use a cursor. Paul mentioned that the building is 30,000 square feet. Only 4,000 square feet of that is on the first floor. The other 2 floors, second and third floor, are elevated above the on-site parking. And when you look at this first floor plan, you see the portion of the building where you see the plan at the bottom, that fronts on Springwood Avenue. Avenue A runs up the right-hand side of the building. So we have 4,000 square feet on the first floor, and located at the corner of Springwood and Avenue A, which is the northwest corner of the building, is the main entrance and main lobby to the building. We have a vestibule, which leads into a lobby space, and then contained in that lobby space is a monumental stair which runs up to the second floor. Just adjacent to that, we have 2 elevators, and I'll explain why there are 2 in just a moment. Moving behind the lobby, we have a second lobby. That lobby is for the Early Childhood Center and will only be used by the Early Childhood Center. And we'll explain drop-off in a moment. Well, we don't have a site plan here. What's going to happen when you see the site plan is that there's a drop-off lane that runs directly through the site, as Mr. Fitzgerald will show you, and there are 4 drop-off spaces on site. Parents will drop their students off, and those students will enter where you see the cursor moving right now. They will have their own lobby to enter the Early Childhood Center, which is located on the second floor. Once in the building, they will have the use of the elevator if they so choose, the one public elevator, or they can enter the main lobby and ascend up the monumental stair to the second floor. We'll see the second floor plan in a moment. Moving back to the front of the building, fronting on Springwood Avenue, that space, which is all exposed with glass storefront to Springwood Avenue, is the Asbury Park Museum. The museum occupies approximately 1,400 square feet on the ground floor. And as you can see, it will front and be largely exposed with a glass frontage to Springwood Avenue. Behind that, we have some of the building services, including a trash room, building services, water service entry, electrical room, etc. And then wedged in between those spaces and the Early Childhood Center lobby, we have a third lobby. And this is the residential lobby. We assume that the residents will be parking for most of the time in the space underneath the building, and they will enter their lobby from the rear, right here, and they have access to their own elevator. That second elevator only goes to the third floor and will be for the use of the residents only. I should also tell you that we'll be providing a security key fob type or card access system, so only the residents will be allowed to get to their residential floor. And if they want to have visitors, they will have to announce those visitors and have them allowed up into the building via an electronic security system.
So how is that done? So visitors enter into the parking garage?
We will have a system where they can call the resident can then open the door. If visitors may park in here at night, for example, if there are available spaces, or they may come from anywhere. I don't know exactly where they might come
I
from.
mean, so the residential lobby is within the parking garage?
Well, it's the doors to it front on you call it a parking garage. It is a covered parking area, correct?
Okay, and what is there? So you have to, if you were walking,
You walk in,
if you're walking, you have to walk into the covered parking area.
Correct.
To the lobby,
Correct.
right? So I'm saying, so visitors, is there security at the street line that they can't enter into that?
no, the residents will have to use their residential lobby, and their guests will have to use that lobby.
No, I'm saying, can someone walk in from the street into the covered parking area? Or is there some sort of gate control there from the street?
Well-
Is that MUA?
There will be a landscape buffer around the parking area, but there is no fencing or screening. If someone walks into the street, they can walk in there.
So they can't access their parts by the main lobby and vestibule at all?
The residential lobby does not connect to the main lobby. The intention is to keep the residents separate from the early childhood students and faculty and from interface staff.
The main lobby-
Very similar to what we have at Springwood Center across the street, which works quite well. The residents have their own lobby there. As the mayor mentioned earlier, we also will have their mailboxes in this lobby, so they will have all the mailboxes inside. That works quite well for the post office. We know it works. But we're trying to keep the residents separate from all of the other activities in the building.
What is the main lobby used for?
The main lobby will be used for people coming to Interfaith Neighbors. Coming into the museum, you actually enter the museum through the main lobby. Or if you're going to the school, you can use the main lobby.
So the elevator off the main lobby does not go to the third floor?
The elevator, no, only the residential elevator goes to the third floor.
The entrance to the museum is through the vestibule. Right?
It's through the vestibule of the yes, through the vestibule.
So, I'm sorry, once again, the elevator that's in the main lobby, where does that go?
Goes to the second floor, to the Early Childhood Center and to Interfaith Neighbors offices.
Okay, so what is, when it says daycare arrival and drop-off, you have, is that like a room here, or what is that?
That is
On this
their dedicated lobby, and the reason it's at the rear, and I wish I had a site plan to show you, but it's in the civil set, which we're going to have up next. There is a drop-off lane which runs from Atkins Avenue on this side, on the left-hand side of the plan, right through in the first column bay and exits out onto Avenue A. Off of that drop-off lane, there are 4 spaces where a parent can pull off, let their student out on the right-hand side of the car, on the curb side, onto a sidewalk, and that sidewalk leads directly where you see the cursor into the Early Childhood Center lobby. So at no time will any child who's being dropped off have to cross traffic. They will exit the car onto a sidewalk, directly into the lobby. Their parents can then either bring them upstairs via the elevator, or they can enter into the main lobby and use the stair to climb to the second floor.
So they drop them off right in front of the residential lobby?
Correct. And you'll see that on the site plan in a moment.
So people walk, get out of the car?
You can get out of the car if you're...
You leave it in that lane?
You leave it in that
drop-off
space.
lane?
You can leave it there while you take your student in.
So you have to take the students?
Well-
There's no,
Okay, I get...
is there staff at the drop-off lane waiting to take the children? Or are people pulling up their cars in that lane, leaving them in that lane, and then bringing their child into the school?
That's an operational issue for the school. I assume that both will happen. I assume that there will be a staff member there to receive the children in the morning. But again, that's more of a question for the operation of the school.
And I'll just clarify, hang on. What Paul had testified to earlier, there are 4 parking spaces adjacent to the lane. So people
Can we put the site
dropping
plan
off and park in parallel parking spaces.
Here, we're going to show you a site plan. This might help explain it.
Okay, because
They're not just parking in the lane.
They're not parking anymore. Because what I'm concerned about is,
Yeah.
you know, you have a queue of cars now blocking when people are trying to enter the building.
We're going to go old school. Let me just see.
Oh, hang on, no, well, we can't open it up to you yet. You've already gone, you can come again,
Hold on.
but we don't want to open up again. Go ahead, you're in.
Okay. This is Atkins Avenue, Springwood Avenue, Avenue A,
Adams.
and Adams is on top. This is the entrance lane where anyone coming with a student or one of the young children will enter, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces right here where you can park your car if you want, if you so choose, get out, take your student on this sidewalk, enter the building, take them up to and turn them over to staff. Or operationally, I don't know this yet, but it may be that staff will have people here receiving the children. But you can, 4 cars can stay there for a few moments while you bring your child to the school or to the lobby, and then you will get back in your car and exit onto Avenue A.
Okay, now, back to what we're kind of asking here about the flow. We have 35 kids coming. Are they all coming at the same time?
Well, I don't
Is
think
everything
they're all-
open at the same time?
First place, I don't know that they'll be all 35.
Okay, that's what, well, whoever can
That's-
speak to that later can speak to
Somebody else's
it.
testimony.
Somebody else will testify, it's okay. I can wait.
It's fine.
It's all right.
But they will not all come at the exact same time. That's
Oh, within 10 minutes of each
within a
other.
few minutes of each other, yes. But we don't even expect that all of them will come by car. Many of them, in fact, most of them at 302 Atkins come by foot. They walk. So we don't expect that all 30 or so will come by car. A number of them will
But
come.
when you design something, if you say there's a capacity of 35 children, you know, when you approve something, you have to assume all 35 are there, and as a class timing, you have to assume all the cars could be there at one time.
Well, no, actually you don't. And when you design a school, you never design the bus drop-off for every single bus they're going to drop off students at that school at the same time. The buses come over a period of 15, 20 minutes. The students exit, they leave. Most, for example, in a 2,000 square foot high school, you might have 12 buses at a time. That's nowhere near the capacity of the school, but that's what might be available in the drop-off lane. So
You know, I have grandchildren now, and I've had children that I've dropped off to school, and I pick up my grandchildren from school. And I can tell you what a nightmare it is with traffic, with people with cars picking up So, everybody seems to be there, tries to get there early, get a space to be there.
I drop off my granddaughter at school every morning, so I know the drill myself. I can tell you, though, that 4 spaces with a 4 to 5 minute turnover over a 20-minute period, most of the students here who will come by car will be accommodated by this drop-off scheme.
May I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
When you consider, I understand the immense amount of work that has gone into making this floor plan, and I see a lot of the different elements that you're trying to fit in here. When you were considering where the daycare entrance was, did you consider just putting the door and the vestibule at the corner where it would be equally accessible by somebody walking without having to enter the garage and somebody coming from the garage? Just push the doors. I also think it would activate the facade to a better extent in that way and not require any reconfiguration of the internal workings, which are complicated, and I acknowledge you have put a lot of work into this.
If you come by foot on Springwood Avenue and you enter the vestibule here, you will have access to the Early Childhood Center lobby from this corner as well.
So my
So
suggestion
this
is
point
simply
accommodates the drop-off, this point would accommodate pedestrian drop-off, or pedestrian access.
feel like you are getting, if you think about pulling the doors in the garage towards the corner, further away from the residential lobby, you're starting to decouple the conflicts that everybody else has spoken of, and further activating the facade of the building that faces the street.
Well,
I'm just saying about moving the doors. You don't have to answer me or agree to it, that's my suggestion.
I understand your point. Originally, we intended on having drop-off on Avenue A. However, there is insufficient room there to allow a drop-off.
It's not for the.
So we opted to move the drop-off internally. We felt it would be safer for the students to be accommodated internally. That doesn't preclude them from coming in through the main lobby from Springwood Avenue. So I think we've accomplished the best of both worlds here. At least we've tried to.
My suggestion stands that using the corner for doors would allow the drop-offs to happen in the secure fashion you have described and allow people to walk from the outside and eliminate many of the conflicts that have been suggested here. It's a simple relocation of doors, no interior configuration.
Just the addition of the doors.
It isn't, well, it's actually, yes, it's the addition of a door.
Just as a fact, at the current 302 Atkins Center, the Lorenzo Harris Center, there are 25 students. 23 of the 25 walk to the building. Only 2 come by car right now. So that's from Mr. McEvely.
That raises another question then. This is a big piece of infrastructure going to the building. It's its own drive aisle, its own 4 spaces. It's taking, it just seems like a lot for what we presume is only a few students driving by car. I feel like you could use this for other things.
I don't know that we need it for other things. I think the 4 spaces provides us the flexibility that if we did get 4 or 5 people coming at the same time, we could accommodate them. We're off the street, which is safer. So we think this is the best possible solution here. You can walk in from the street, from the sidewalk. You can walk in, you can come by car. We seem to have covered, in our opinion, we seem to have covered both options here.
Sure, I understand that. I just think that you could have made more things available to yourself and had more options for yourself if you had just included this through the parking lot for a drop-off. It just seems like a big piece of infrastructure you're going to use twice a day on weekdays for a handful of students. If you want it.
Again, this is going to occur at pickup time also, so this gives the parent the opportunity to come in the afternoon, park their car, go in and find their student, or their child, and bring them back to the car. All of which happening off the streets, which we think is a big plus.
The spaces are going to be limited to time. Because I know you say people want to drop off.
Yes, we will, yes.
Why not shoot the center of
Something
the
like
parking
that,
lot?
you know,
Like, why a whole mile?
Is it going to be enforced, limited for drop-off?
Yes, they will be drop-off spaces only, so we could post a sign with some type of time limit.
Okay, but, to everybody's point here, you're saying you want to make it safer for the students being dropped off, but the majority of the students being dropped off appear to be walking. And you've created all this infrastructure, this huge walkway, a drop-off area, parking spaces, where we could have improved the streetscape.
I
And
think
Eric's
that's-
point, having a door with a vestibule, make it a point of
Entry.
visual activity as
Yeah.
well as actual physical activity.
And I would say this extends to the particular location of the residential lobby, which there is no way to solve. But you assume everybody's going to be entering through the garage into the back of the building, sort of eliminating one of the most fundamental relationships of people with their neighborhood, and that's kind of entry onto the front, in this type of built-up neighborhood with,
And I'm sorry to be pedantic, but it's not a garage.
Yeah.
Surface parking that is covered. There's
Yes.
nothing enclosing the parking area. So on one hand, I like it because free flow of air, it's a little bit more, as a place where you're parking your car. You're not stifled inside that contained space. But as far as the streetscape impacts, it's not great either.
So
To Donna's point, we could add a second door on the Avenue A side so that you could enter the early childhood lobby. What? We'd have to work it out with the vestibule, but we could add a second door so you could also enter that lobby directly from the sidewalk on.
Right, but it's Avenue A, it's a narrower
It's a narrow
parkway and a sidewalk. That presents different problems for being significant entrance. Again, we want to have, like you're saying, safety for people who are dropping off. So we don't want the sidewalk crowded, we don't want people, competing for the entranceway, so to speak. I don't know what the solution is necessarily, but I acknowledge Eric's observation about, again, engagement at the street line, but also James's point of, there's an awful lot of infrastructure to build, maybe there was a better way to orient it, so we get better pedestrian accommodations in lieu of all this car space.
Yeah.
If the majority of the students and parents are going to be walking, say it's winter time.
Yeah.
And knowing the town and the layout, they're not going to be coming from the south, they're going to be coming from else. Wouldn't they use the front entrance on Springwood to get out of the inclement weather?
So are they coming from,
the majority of the town lies to the north of this site.
Right, so why not go in the front, like they say, the front entrance that they have?
Which they can do.
Right.
Right, and if you're a pedestrian, you're gonna have to go up, come in the front entrance, go up that main ornamental stair. I mean, that
Oh,
seems
no,
like
there's
the
a
best
door.
way.
No, you could still use the elevator.
They could still,
They could, or you could come
Or you
in the
could
main
walk the
entrance and
stair.
just bring your kid up the stair.
they could go straight back to
but
the.
at the same time,
other
I
entrance.
also acknowledge, and Chairwoman Kurzak, you've raised the question, there are very strict rules about childcare centers, right? I don't know about the mixing zones in public spaces. It may be safer, easier for staff to have a separate lobby and, reception area for those kids.
Oh.
I want them coming in the front doors, but maybe they need.
Well, that's one of the things that I'm concerned about, is that you're having the public and children coming in the same door for different purposes. One to go to the childcare center, and one to go visit your offices or whatever. I'm concerned about that. But, so, let's be clear, the residents, because we were talking about them being involved in the streetscape and they come into the vestibule, a resident. So how does a resident get into their place?
They don't.
They don't.
But that's,
The residents do not use the main lobby. They go around
they
and
have to
use
go in
their.
the back.
They go in their own lobby.
That's unfortunate,
That's what I
because
would say.
we want them to be part of the,
That's the fundamental relationship.
Right, that's
of
the relationship.
Your neighborhood and your front door.
I mean, you have this covered walkway.
It's a difficult problem. The thing is, this is a difficult problem to just pick apart, because a lot of work has gone into
Oh,
getting to this
absolutely.
point, and so there's a lot of thought that has made it. But I think we have to acknowledge that letting the residents only enter in the rear may feel like a missed opportunity, and it mixes them closely
Two-sided.
to the use of the child care center.
yes, because I'm just concerned that the businesses that are, or whoever's going to be
Yeah.
on the second floor, those are the only people coming through the main entrance. That's it. The residents, I mean, it would be nice for the residents to be able to get there, but I understand, and now we have the children. We have to worry about the children and the people that have businesses on the second floor. That's rough.
It's
Yeah, one of the issues here that we're very concerned about here is security, and the residents will be coming and going 24 hours a day, where most of the rest of the building will not. So this gives them the opportunity to have their own secure space, come and go when they please, but the rest of the building can be locked down during the off hours overnight. That's something that's of concern to all of us operating a school. It's of concern to interface folks that are going to be in the building. And this way, I think we've accommodated a secure situation, giving everyone a situation that works. It's similar to what we did at Springwood Center, which seems to work just fine.
Right, but
it seems to be, you say that, but it seems to be the residents have this unsecured alleyway.
That will not be dark. It will not be dark. It will be illuminated.
It's lit, but it's not secured at either street. So, usually people walk into the property, their residence from the street. I mean, it can't be seen from the street. I just think it crazy.
If they park, either going to park their cars there, they would then have to walk around to the front of the building.
No, but you'd want both.
If they park.
Right.
Well, the residents presumably would.
We anticipate that a number of the residents will park.
Will have cars.
Okay, but for many developments in the city these days, right? Multifamily mixed-use developments occurring east side and west side. We're having this lobby experience in the street for residents and users.
Yes.
And if people want to walk downtown from this point, they're not going to go out back to their car. They're going to walk down Springwood. So
Which we want them to walk down Springwood. We want that.
So the residents in this building have to come down the back elevator, out the back of the building and to the side street and then out to Springwood. Whereas any other development that we're seeing on the east side, the residents would just come down to a main lobby and go out the front door. Now, it doesn't have to be the only way.
Right.
Could be an alternative.
So I like that they have their own residential lobby and that you can go out the back to your car. That's fantastic. I like how this is designed. But I personally would like to see this residential elevator open on both sides so that if you're not going to your car out the back, you could exit out into that main lobby out front.
Right.
And mix with everybody
Exactly.
else.
So you can
That to
come
me
in the
would
main
fix it.
vestibule.
That residential
Which we
elevator
can do. We just discussed that. We could do that. We would have to,
There's a column in the way.
it would put a heavier burden in security on the overall electronic controls, but we could probably do that.
No, because I think that makes perfect sense to have it open both ways on the elevator.
Yeah, could you not make the, you could still have that drop off for the childcare center in the back. But couldn't there be a door from that drop off center into that way? Not from the main lobby? In other words, if you wanted to secure the drop off for the daycare, couldn't you separate it from the main lobby, not have that, don't enter the main lobby, the drop off from the main lobby, but have its own separate entrance on every way?
Yeah.
Well, we could if we'd have to add a vestibule also, but we could add another entrance on Avenue A.
And, you'd have it secured, so it would only be entered from Avenue A and from that drop off.
No, it has to go
That
here.
might present a security issue, though.
Why would it be separated?
Can I recall Paul? Can Paul Cavalier, because he's more, excuse me, he's more familiar with operations. If I could ask Paul
All right, Jack?
to come forward.
Okay.
Yeah, so given
For the
the,
record, you understand you're continuing under oath?
so given the multitude of uses in the building, it's very important, and we've learned this lesson at Springwood Center, it's very important to control the different spaces within the building and limit access to that occupant for that space. So the separate residential lobby, 24-hour access to the residents, we really don't want them to have 24-hour access to the main lobby to the building, and we don't want them to have access to the second floor from a security standpoint. When it comes to the Early Childhood Center, we want to limit the number of access points to that space from a security standpoint. So we'll control the front entrance access to the building through the front lobby, where they can go up the stairs or the elevators to the second floor, and it will be a controlled access point at the rear of the building. I do not want to add a third access point for the Early Childhood Center from a security standpoint. From an operations standpoint, that's just not acceptable.
Well, why would you even have
I would just, the suggestion,
Hey.
go to this door here.
an
Hang
entrance
on,
from the
he's
main
talking,
lobby into the childhood access? Why not just have from the drop-off area and one from Avenue A, that goes off from the main lobby? And why can't you just have the second floor secured from the main lobby?
We have 2 points of access because in our experience at the Dr. Lorenzo Harris Early Childhood Learning Center, the majority of parents bring their children by foot. And so that gives them the opportunity to come into the front of the building and rise through the elevator or the monumental stair. But we do want to give access for somebody who comes by car, or on a rainy day, maybe some of those parents that normally come by foot would come by car and have the shelter of the floors above to drop off at the rear of the building. So, and given the day and given the climatic conditions, that same family could use both points of access.
Okay, so I understand what people dropping off by foot, if you put an entrance in the wall on Avenue A and close off the main lobby, does that not allow them to go to the drop-off area? Use the elevator?
Personally, I don't think the additional utility there would be worth it, and it would create an additional potential for security breach, personally.
How would it be a security breach?
That's a third point of access that we would have to control.
Can we go back to what Eric
You
suggested?
would close the one from the main lobby into the drop-off area. And you would just have access from the drop-off, from the vehicular drop-off, and then one from the Avenue A facade. So that would just be 2 access points into that drop-off area. And they would use, did they have to use a stair and an elevator? Would that be part of it?
No, it would be their option to use either.
I'm saying it would be legal for them just to be able to use the elevator?
Sure.
I believe the record.
No, you need
You need to egress?
the fire access is the stair, yeah.
That's not an egress point. I can explain egress when I get back up there, but first place, 4-year-olds like stairs. We have this, what's going to be a monumental, very articulated, a lot of glass stair right in the window, so that people running up and down that stair, and I say running, but moving up and down that stair, help to activate the streetscape. That's one of the reasons why we like to put a stair like that with glass abutting a sidewalk, because it helps activate the streetscape. So I would think that half of the students, when they get there in the morning, are going to enjoy that little trek up that stair, because it's going to be a really cool stair.
I guess maybe,
And I think
you hear a number of people on the board are not liking the residential entryways.
I hear you.
I can tell you in our experience at Springwood Center, where we have 2 elevators, one is tasked normally to only service the 3rd floor, and the other elevator is tasked normally to only service the 2nd floor where the senior center is. We do have the option to turn on the capacity of the elevator serving only a 3rd floor to serve the 2nd floor, but we only have it at Springwood Center in the event the city's hosting a large function in the senior center and we have to move large volumes of people from grades to the 2nd floor. In this case, with 8 households on that 3rd floor, they should have their separate access and only access to the 3rd floor.
Yeah, I think that's what we're saying, is that 3rd floor elevator, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, is that we're saying that 3rd floor elevator opens on 2 sides.
It could do
So
that.
one side will be to the main lobby, and one side is the residential lobby, like many elevators do.
Yeah, but then what he's saying is they want that main lobby to be closed for part of the day. When the museum is closed, Interfaith is closed, they don't want anybody in there. So that makes it
That's too
complicated.
bad.
Yeah, well.
Because that would be
yeah,
really nice.
Similarly, if you look at the vestibule at the main lobby, the reason why the access point to the museum is within the vestibule and not within the lobby itself is our operations are typically Monday through Friday. The museum may have events on the weekend. So we can shut down the rest of the building and the museum can still have a function in their space. So I will say we've given a lot of thought to security and the different uses in the building, and much of it is based on our experience at Springwood Center.
So why like the museum didn't get its own entrance right off of Springwood? Why is the need for investment?
We actually create more space for them if they come into a common vestibule. They end up with more functional space in their demarked area.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just want to roll back for a second. Can you be able to zoom in on where the elevators are? Here. So. I know it's like, which functions are actually going to work, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, so you have the residential lobby on the left side of that wall,
Mm-hmm.
and then the commercial and daycare lobby on the right side of that wall. And then you have the curved wall outlining the main lobby. And so what is this? There's a break in that curved wall?
That's the soffit above.
I'm sorry, what's
That's a break to get back to the building services space on the first floor?
it's just like an alcove.
Mm-hmm.
There's water fountains, though, that is.
What are those things that are there?
Aliens.
Water fountains?
Water fountains.
Okay, so what is the problem with the residents coming out of the residential lobby into the main lobby?
They don't want them.
Because they will have access to the second floor. If they're in the main lobby, they have access to the second floor.
By the grand staircase?
Correct.
Controlling the elevator?
Correct.
The solution is to move.
But
So is that the single issue that you have to consider out as it relates to the lobby, is accessing the staircase and then
I don't
going
think
to
you
the rest
could
of the
do
building? There's
anything.
nothing else in that lobby, right? The child care center would be locked.
It's
right?
impossible for
Off
us.
hours.
Their door would be locked and off hours,
So I
their
guess-
elevator is card controlled or
So
whatever.
is there, I guess my question would be, and I understand the concern you're articulating, is there any other way to deny access to that staircase?
Looks like the top of the stairs. It's
So-
the second floor.
Well,
I think, we have to take at face value Paul's assertion that there has been a lot of work put into this plan, and I don't know that it's going to be a productive discussion for us to try and
Yeah.
redesign it by committee here. However, we can certainly lodge the concern that there is some small improvements that could be made to both create a little bit more gracious. It's trying to make, if we can't flip it to make it be on the street like it would normally be, how do we improve the experience in that underneath area? And I think what the suggestions have been is to simply relocate a door from here to here or here to here. That's it. And then just, maybe you could take one of these spaces away and create a more gracious drop-off area in front of what are essentially the two entrances underneath that garage space. So I think that is, we have to acknowledge that the importance of this project leads us to a place where much work has been done through many meetings with different committees and city council and locals. And I think that the project's value speaks for itself. I don't know that we're gonna be able to tell him how to redesign it, but the suggestions about how that experience of the underneath part is modified is, I think, important. That may be where you start to think about your best opportunities for public art, and it need not be paint. It may be light, it may be sculpture, it may be decorative panels, it may be something that really jazzes that space up into a place. And so that's my suggestion.
Also, I believe that the residents have to be able to get into this building via stairs also, I'm assuming. Where would that be? Because people like to take stairs, they don't like elevators. So can you tell me where can a person that is on the first floor, walking in, how do I get to my unit on the third floor? How do I get in? Because all I see is emergency exits. Like, is there something from the outside that you can get into that stairway?
Yeah.
Next to the
Let
turf club?
architect finish telling us about the rest of the design.
Okay, if we can wait. I'm okay with waiting for that answer.
Bring Steve back.
Okay.
The two stairs that you see that are enclosed are required egress stairs. It was our intention to give card access to the residents to enter the stair at the top, which is the one at the southernmost part in the building, from the inside, not from the street. That exit on the street is going to be locked, it's for egress only. But from the garage area, right there where the cursor is, you would have a card access, and if you were inclined to walk up to the third floor, you could use your card and get into that stair and go to the third floor.
So you can go in.
You can go in.
And what about the entrance on Springwood?
We could
Can we
also
go
give
in?
them access via electronic card access to that stair if they were so inclined. We find at Springwood that the residents do not walk. All of them use the elevator.
Steve, to the board's point, the emergency staircase, you can give access to the residents on the north side, west side, excuse me. That would at least allow the residents to access down that area.
Well, except that's not the downtown area.
Very minor.
Yeah, this stair here, we could do that.
So if you gave access to Springwood, you at least meet the board's criteria to allow the residents.
We could give the residents the same access to their elevator, could open that door.
John, does that meet code?
Why wouldn't it? Do you think?
Well, it would be essentially a main entrance and there's no lobby vestibule. I think
Okay.
you don't typically walk right into a staircase off.
You can't walk, you wouldn't be able to walk right in. It would
Yeah,
have to, it's gonna have a
Yeah.
panic device on it, it's a locked fire door. But you could use a card access to trigger that device, which would unlatch it and allow a resident to open the door from Springwood and climb the two flights to the third floor. The problem is when somebody like that enters from the sidewalk, the door's open for a moment, somebody else may find their way in with them or behind them. That's always a concern when you're doing.
And it's not an open lobby. where-
Right, and it's concealed.
Well,
so
neither is
nobody
the
can-
back lobby.
Yeah.
The residential lobby is not visible. Either.
Nor is this one.
Neither is
Well,
that
that's
one.
open to that's in an illuminated covered area, so there would be a lot of light there.
But
You would be able to see someone there before you open the door as opposed to someone sneaking up behind you on the sidewalk.
Well, I think that to Eric's point is that you understand our concerns, what we're speaking about, and I don't think that we can solve those problems because yes, you have put a lot of work into this and we understand that. Coming into this, I understand it's difficult to hear our concerns, but here we are.
Because when you go to the second floor, if you pull up the second floor plan, I mean, you get into the lobby and then it seems like there's all doors that are securing all the spaces, right? So.
Well, at the second, all right, now we're on the second
So
floor.
you come up the grand stairs and you into this other.
Or the
lobby,
elevator,
right?
and you enter into this lobby where you have two choices. You either enter interfaith neighbor space, which is the door.
Which is secure.
Which is secured, or you enter the early childhood center.
Right, so what's the problem with if the residents were allowed access to the main lobby on the first floor? What is really the problem? I'm saying you want to shut down the building. I mean, you're shutting down the lobbies, and you're shutting down these other spaces, right? You're shutting down interfaith space. Even if these lobbies were open.
Those doors could be locked. We did not want the residents just hanging out in the lobby on off hours. The more space you create, the more opportunity you create for people to just set up camp there. And we didn't want that. This is a controlled space. We wanted to keep it that way, especially with the Early Childhood Center here. We felt this was more appropriate. But you enter that lobby either via the stair or the elevator. There is a little outdoor terrace there, which if you want to step outside and check the weather or whatever, you'll have the opportunity to do so. If you go to the north side, to the south, you will enter the lobby for the Early Childhood Center, where you'll see, just moving back, you'll see the 2 classrooms which front on Avenue A. Both of those classrooms, per the state requirements, will have toilets where the fixtures are sized for 4 and 5-year-olds. And then you'll have an admin area where you have a nurse's station, a conference room for parent-teacher conferences, and an administrator's area and a break room for the Early Childhood Center. That's the entirety of the Early Childhood Center right there on the 2nd floor. That corridor that you see running vertically on the sheet provides access to the egress stair at the top of the sheet, or they can exit through the lobby down here at the bottom. If you go the other way, you go into Interfaith Neighbors area, where you have a receptionist, and then you have their 4 different office areas, which I won't get into the details of them, but they have a nutrition program, community development program. I'm going to miss some of them, but some of the other programs. They then have a multi-purpose room right in the center, which is divisible. They can use that for teaching, for training, for all kinds of activities that might occur, and we don't know what all those might be. They have their own restrooms, and then behind that they have their administrative area, where the administration of Interfaith Neighbors will have their offices. And they have a large conference room on the southeast corner of the 2nd floor, which also provides access to an exterior terrace off of their conference room. And that's the entirety of the 2nd floor, Interfaith Neighbors and the Early Childhood Center.
The separate, with the 6th floor, the separate, when you take the elevator or you come out of the stairwell, there is a door you go to the childhood center, right? And there's a separate lobby and entrance point for the services provided by agency, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So those are both secure in theory.
Correct.
And I would assume that there are operations happening from Interfaith that are happening in the evenings.
There could be, correct.
Access,
So this way you'd be able to secure the Early Childhood Center if Interfaith had a program running at night. Or vice versa, if there was a award ceremony or a graduation or whatever. 4th grade graduations are a lot of fun.
So what's the main motivation behind the development itself? Is it to give interfaith offices, is it the childhood, is that the residential? I mean, there's always a main focus of the development, right? That's why you want to, some of the things are added on.
I think Mr. Paul spoke to that, but I think, as Paul mentioned, Interfaith needs more space. They don't have room where they are. They would like to move to this site, which they've, over the years, been able to acquire. That will free up the space where they are now for them to develop an affordable housing project, which we've already started to look at for that, the 810 4th Avenue site. But they also have a commitment here to this Early Childhood Center, which is the lower school, as we call it, is over at 302 Atkins. They've always been committed to giving them a 4 and 5-year-old upper school program, and so we decided to house that here. We don't have room at Atkins. It has to be here. And Interfaith has always been trying to provide more affordable housing. So the opportunity, and it's consistent with the redevelopment plan, the opportunity to provide more affordable housing in this building is there, so we're taking it.
Right,
I don't know that.
The main focus is to provide interfaith with more open space and to fulfill your commitment to the early childhood. But you do, of course, I mean, that's what I'm saying, that seems to be the main focus. So I understand, like, you're going to develop.
Okay.
If your main focus was for the affordable housing, it would be a different design. That's all.
More units.
Yeah, right.
Why don't we have Paul answer that?
Yeah.
What do we call Paul?
That's really an owner question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mentioned this briefly. You know, our clientele, at least within the city of Asbury Park, are largely West Side residents. So this gives us the opportunity to be in and of the neighborhood. Right now, we're on the east side of tracks. We're basically serving the population on the west side of tracks. A lot of our operations, the Early Childhood Learning Center for 3-year-olds and 3 months old, the farm, the launch center, they're all within this 1.5 block area. So we are consolidating the location for all of the programs that we offer by taking this opportunity to develop this site. And that does free up the site east of the tracks for 100% affordable housing projects. So the motivation, the bottom line motivation is for us to be in and of the neighborhood that we are serving, at least as it relates to Asbury Park.
Hold on a second, Paul, maybe Scott. So we're talking about the second floor, so we have the 2 classrooms, which I know you're gonna have a teacher and a teacher's aide, so that's 4 employees.
At least for 17 kids.
And a receptionist, an administrator, and nurses. 7 employees for the school, minimum, sorry.
How many employees? I think that's where we're getting to.
They expect 9 employees at the Early Childhood Center.
9 employees, okay. Then how many employees,
By state regulation.
how many employees are gonna be moved from 4th Avenue to this for interfaith, in the interfaith area?
Yeah, there are probably approximately 10 employees that will be moving because the senior meal program will not be moving into the building. So if we have 50 employees, 25 of them are involved in the senior meal program. So there are probably 8 to 10 employees that will be relocated from 4th Avenue to this location.
Heck.
Anything else on the second floor? We haven't even gotten to the building yet, so.
So we're having I'm assuming there's a director also. Where are they going to live?
We can go back. Can you point out the?
Because I'm just probably an assistant.
You can
for
see
the
there.
school.
It says administrative.
There's
But
administrative.
that's a conference room, that's not an office.
There's a receptionist area and there's no office there.
Is that the administrative office is going to be where the director is going to be, as well as a conference room that anybody can use?
No, they're separate offices. Yeah.
Okay, it's hard, I don't see that, I'm sorry. I don't see that as a separate office, I see that as one
The
office.
school at the principal's office. We never had a principal's office. We have a conference room that they're going to use for their administrative staff. There's a nurse and there's a break room. That's what they
Okay,
request.
so the director will have the conference room.
The conference room.
And if there's an assistant director or the assistant teachers or whatever, they all have to use the same space.
Well, they have a break room as well, but the teachers and the assistant will be in the classroom most of the time.
Okay. It's all regulated, so I'm not as worried about it, but it's all
It's all
regulated.
going to be approved by Division of, now it's called Child and Family Services. Okay. It's
And
all
when do we see that? So that we see what is required. So just in case the 9 employees change to 12, when do we see that?
Because it affects parking.
Right, because it affects parking. So it's like, when do we see that, what that is? What that requirement is? I know that you're saying it's 9, but because it's highly regulated, I just want to make sure it is 9, or is it 12? Once it gets approved.
It'll be all be part of the licensing requirements, and 2 years from now, whatever they might be, both the staffing complement will be based on the number of students we have in the building. So we're giving you approximations.
Yeah.
2 years from now, it'll all be determined, as you say, by state licensing requirements.
Right, but that impacts the need for how many parking spaces. Okay.
Well, no, we comply with the parking.
Well, it's based on 9. So as
Yeah,
Barbara's
if you're-
saying, if you end up having 12, that's a space and a half per.
That's more
From a
spaces.
legal perspective, we have to know
Okay.
exactitude
You
what
may
the
need
parking
to have more
requirement
share.
is. So we would have to go, possibly a condition of approval would be that we would need to see whatever the licensure is, and that encompasses the proposed parking scheme. If it's gonna change, then the amended approval, you'd have to come
Well,
back.
that's something we have to.
Right. Am I reading that right?
No, you're right.
Accommodation for more
That's
spaces.
one of the assigned parking.
It is.
So now
It's
they're
a
up to
one.
9, so
Right.
13.
You're obviously not having
Well,
this.
we'll be getting to that,
Okay.
for sure. All right, as we just
Okay.
also noticed that on the CCH report, it does say that it's 6 employees. So now that it's 9, it changes the ratio of parking spaces. But we'll get to the CCH report later, so we can deal with that later, but we're just bringing it up.
Do the regulations require the drop-off area that you have on the first floor?
The regulations?
Well, you said everything's ready.
Childcare.
Because, again, I asked the question early on, is there staff? So I don't understand the concept of having a special place for drop-off if that's not mandatory. In other words, if it's not mandatory by the, not by regulations, but by the school. In other words, you drop your childhood off here, you drop your childhood here, and we take them up to the school. So I don't understand why you have a drop-off area, yet also the ability for people just to bring in their kids and go up the stairs in the elevators and drop them off upstairs. So it seemed to me like you had a central drop-off area. You know, you wouldn't have to have people, you know, bringing them or collecting them on the upper floor. I don't want to show this.
I think we do have a central drop-off area.
You do, so why have both? That's what, my point being is, if people are allowed not to use the drop-off area and can just bring their child up the stairs, why do you have a drop-off area? Why do you have so much space?
Because we anticipate that some children will arrive by car and some will arrive on foot. We anticipate
I understand that,
both.
but you said most will arrive by foot, and the ones that can come by foot can come in the main lobby. And that's why you have all these entrances to this drop-off area that's on the first floor. You're the ones that said.
Again, we feel that the entry and drop-off is appropriate to the size of the facility. As Paul mentioned earlier, if you get a rainy day, we may get a majority of the kids coming by car on that given day. So we need to be able to accommodate some degree of drop-off. We think this is a reasonable approach. The rest of the kids may come by foot and they will come in and walk up the stairs.
And not go to that drop-off area.
Well, if they're on foot, they might walk right down Springwood, come in the lobby and go up the Monumental Stair and you're in the building. But if you're in a car, you won't do that. We purposely move the drop-off on site to get that drop-off function off the city street. We originally intended to do it on Avenue A, but there simply isn't enough width to do it safely there. So we moved it on site. We thought that was a benefit to the whole design to have that drop-off off city streets and controlled in a safe manner. So that's why we did it.
Okay, so the drop-off area there is just for the cars then? That room is just for the dropping?
It's for somebody to stop their car, let their child get out, perhaps go around with them, and if the child is young and needs to be escorted, walk them in. Yeah, you may see both. You may see some parent drop off, the door will open, the kid will jump out and run in the back door and he's in. But that'll vary by kid.
But I'm assuming.
The question was, the purpose of that room was for the vehicular drop-off only?
It is likely to be only for the vehicular drop-off because it's oriented toward that drop-off area.
Right.
If you were walking up to the building, you're not likely to come walking up in the
Right,
driveway.
that's what I'm saying, usually a drop-off area is a mandated area and there will be staff there, right?
But if you're walking to this building from, let's assume you're walking from the south, walking up Atkins Avenue, you're not going to walk all the way around to Springwood. You're going to know that you can go right in the back door, especially if the weather's inclement or it's in the middle of the winter. You're going to go right in that closest door. I mean,
But also these doors, when you're mentioning that these children will be coming out of the car, I'm doubting that they can come out of the car because they need some sort of a fob, some sort of a key card, something to allow them into the door.
No, they
So
don't.
somebody
Not
has
that
to.
door.
Sorry?
Not the door for the childhood drop-off.
Really?
That door will be open during the time in the morning when the kids are arriving. So there will be a steady stream of kids and some parents coming through. And there'll probably be a staff member downstairs.
I would say more than probably.
So worried about security,
I'm-
an open door and maybe the.
I'm not the up.
Yes, in our experience, children will come to this location from 6:30 in the morning till 9:30 in the morning, right? So if someone is coming in through the drop-off point, we will have staff there to give them access to that. It will be a controlled point of entry. Same thing with the front of the building.
Okay, so
We will
you'll,
control access to that space. Given the 3-hour window, we won't be able to staff it the entire time, but at times of high peak transaction, we will have staff there. It's all based on experience and operations. And
So is it not class, is it not scheduled class? Like, you know, time the class starts?
like a lot of early childhood centers, there is an extended day, so parents who are working can drop off earlier or they can pick up later. And we have to staff for that condition. So again, depending on the volume and the time of morning, we could have staff at the point where they're entering the building. Otherwise, it'll be by controlled access. Which, by the way, the Dr. Lorinda Harris Center, we do. That is a secured point of entry, and they have to buzz to get in. So security is a high priority for us and for these families.
So, like, what is your peak at the Lorenzo Center? Morning time, most kids come,
I think
and
the
that's
peak is
7
for
to 8.
8 o'clock, 8 to 8:30. But there are parents who drop off or early in the morning.
Well, sure.
So
So that's, you know,
So that will be buzzed.
it's a range.
if there's not a staff member at the point of entry, it would be controlled by us.
So they know to come down and let you in, or?
Yeah.
so we're on the second floor?
I think we finished the second floor, am I not correct? We'll go
Right,
to
so the stairs in the back, not the front stairs, but the ones in the back that are the emergency stairs, there are doors in the child care center. Are those just for emergency? Are they just for, can people just walk down or up those stairs? It's from the back of the building.
Okay, because that stair will be accessed by the residents, if they so choose to enter, as we noted earlier, in the covered parking area, we created a vestibule there because we cannot lock an egress stair door. So someone can come up that stair and could exit into the second floor and be in that vestibule. However, the other two doors will be exit only. They won't be able to get access into the school or into interface area.
And nor can the school exit there.
Well, no, the school will exit there.
Can
That is
exit
one
there.
of the required exits.
Okay, so that's the emergency exit for
Correct.
another
And the
egress.
panic device will allow the door to operate if you're
Okay.
exiting from the interior to the exterior.
So you
Gotcha.
have to allow
Gotcha.
re-entry on that floor from that stair, even to the second floor.
We don't have to allow re-entry there, we would do it up above.
No, so why you need the vestibule?
Because the door to the stair cannot be locked. Yes, you have to allow someone to get out of the stair, so you can't lock it. You do have to allow it. So we go to the third floor. Go to the third floor.
All right, and the other thing is now, on the interfaith side, I see that you'd mentioned that there would be 10 employees. So I'm guessing that you'll be having a lot of company, because there's a lot of room here. So a lot of people will be coming in for services and whatnot?
Correct.
Is that what's going on here?
Correct.
And the multipurpose rooms, and the community development rooms, and the conference rooms? So that's more cars coming in, or people walking, could go either way. Okay, all right.
And rental assistance.
Okay.
Yeah, the public will access the interfaith offices. All of those departments provide services to the public. So
Right.
the public will be in and out of there all day long, along with their staff.
Okay.
So going now to the third floor. The third floor contains the 8 affordable units. The upper 2 units you can see on this plan, which are at the south side of the building, are a 2-bedroom on the right-hand side and a 3-bedroom on the left-hand side. Those are the 2 UHAC units, as Paul mentioned earlier. The other 6 will be developed under the other program that Paul mentioned. I should have said earlier that the entire building is fully accessible, and all of these units, these residential units, are Type A adaptable, so that any of them can be converted to an accessible unit if so required. And that's per the code, that's required. The units are I think if you look at the plans, the units are quite generous. There are 4 2-bedroom, 3 1-bedroom, and the 1 3-bedroom. All of the units have an exterior balcony, so you can step out and get some fresh air. They have egress at either end of the corridor, be it the egress stair at the south side of the building or the egress stair at the northeast corner of the building. And they have their access via the elevator, which you can see, obviously the elevator core is where it is.
How big is the elevator room? Because I see you have 2 bike storages up here. I'm just trying to imagine people getting their bikes up there. It looks like a small elevator from this drawing, but I can't really tell.
It'll be a 2,500 pound, but it'll have to be large enough for a gurney, so you will be able to get a bicycle in there.
Well, but what's the dimensions of the elevator?
Do you know the interior dimensions?
As a person who lives in a building with a small elevator, it gets tough.
It's a 3,500 pound elevator, I misspoke, and again, if you can fit a gurney, you can get a bicycle in there, or multiple bicycles. I don't know the exact dimensions offhand.
I'm just saying, I live in a building and I can get one elevator and one person in it, and then nothing else is getting inside that elevator. So that's why that's my only
But I
concern.
bet you couldn't get a gurney in that thing either.
Yeah, you can.
Well,
You're getting a gurney one person.
Well, I'm sure that you can come back with that
It's a 3,500
information.
pound elevator, you could fit 2 people and 2 bicycles in it without a problem. All right, so now maybe we should talk about is there any other questions about the plans? Okay.
There's one bedroom, I guess this is,
There is no 4th floor. There is a roof. I should mention, before we leave this, you see this roof area here on the left-hand side of the plan. It's our intention to put a solar array, photovoltaics on that roof area as one of the green features of the building. So that roof, there will be photovoltaics provided here, and that's where they're going to be located. We may have some additional room on the roof level as well to add some photovoltaics, some solar panels, but that'll be dependent upon the spacing of the mechanical units, which we haven't finalized yet. And because we have agreed that there will be no venting of anything, bathrooms, kitchen exhaust, anything through the facade, all the venting will be through the roof. So we need to wait to make sure we figure out where all those vents are before we commit the roof to additional solar panels. But this roof here, this lower roof on the 2nd floor, will be all photovoltaics. So now moving, and I think what we should do to talk about the building is just to go back to the rendering. Okay, so
Just a second. When are we going to talk about where the mechanicals are?
the mechanicals are going to be on the roof. We can go back to the roof plan. All the mechanicals, well, there will be some mechanical. For example, the water service entrance, the pressure relief valves, all of the water service stuff is on the 1st floor, but all of the HVAC equipment, exhaust fans, condensing units, et cetera, will be on the roof. We are providing an aluminum equipment screen around all the equipment. We anticipate that the residential unit equipment will be no more than 36 inches high, so nothing will be visible above the screen. Which you can see, the perimeter of the screen is identified there. Plus, the closest that the equipment screen gets to the building facade is 20 feet setback. So you won't see, if you're coming down Springwood, you might see the screen, but if you're in close proximity to the building, you will not see anything on the roof.
Okay. Right.
1st floor, I see water, I see electric, how about gas?
The gas will come in the building services room.
Okay, thank you.
And as long as you mention it, the meters will be on that back wall along the drop-off lane. That's the only place where they can be, but they will not be visible from the street there. So, and we don't have the final say on where the meters go, the utility companies do, but that's the plan.
Will there be individual meters for the dwellings?
We anticipate individual meters for the tenants and individual electric meters for the residential units.
Can you tell us about because I see that now, I just see that there's bike storage for only 10 bicycles.
No, they're actually...
Is there any place else that I'm missing?
There are 18 bicycles.
There are 2 bike rooms on that 3rd floor.
On the 3rd floor, but what about
on the 3rd floor?
I'm
sorry.
No, I mean, wherever. You just tell me where they are. The bike room. Any place where bicycles can be stored in this building. Because I'm only seeing the 3rd floor.
There's
Two bike rooms on the third floor.
There's two
All right,
bike rooms
if
on the third
There's a
floor.
10 and
You're
a
on the
6.
third floor.
Okay, there's a 10.
There's a rack in the garage.
The 6 is further up the hallway.
There are 2
towards-
bicycle storage rooms for the 8 units.
Oh, I see.
We believe that'll
All right, so you
provide
got you have
adequate space.
16, 2 per unit. Okay, and somebody just mentioned that there's something on the first floor?
No,
Where's
on the
that?
ground floor, there are also, the ground floor, there are also 18 bicycle racks on the ground floor.
Where is that?
You look at the site.
We'll show you when we
Okay.
get back there.
All right, when we get there, I'll take a look there.
Well, we'll go back, just before we lose the question.
The driveway aisle, the right.
Oh, they're over there. Okay, I see them.
We don't have a site plan. That's,
There's more up there? Okay, thank you.
we're gonna, when we get to the site plan, we'll show you where the
Okay.
bike racks are.
That's fine.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the design of the building. This is obviously, as you all know by now, this is the northwest corner of the building, which is the main entrance. You can see the Memorial Center signage above the entrance band. Our intention here is to have most of the first floor transparent to the street. And that's why you see nothing except for a small solid panel. You see almost the entire first floor of the building fronting on the 2 streets is storefront with clear glazing. We want everything that's going on in the lobby to be visible to the street and vice versa. And most of the Springwood frontage is the museum, and we want everything that's happening in the museum, including the opportunity for pedestrians passing by to see the artifacts and be enticed to enter the museum. So the first floor facing the 2 streets is essentially transparent, and it's all storefront glazing, floor to ceiling. When we get to the second floor, we changed the materiality of the building. Now, this is the second floor of the building, as you all know by now, is the institutional portion of the building. It's the Early Childhood Center and its Interfaith Neighbors offices. So what we're going to use on the second floor is a metallic and aluminum panel to articulate the second floor all the way around. The windows differ now when we get to the second floor because the windows are dependent on the use. So if you look down Avenue A, you'll see the 2 classrooms have ribbon windows providing a full wall of natural light entering the classrooms. When we go around, you can't see the other elevations, but similar things happen when we get to the offices. We get window patterns that mimic the office locations in the building, so all of the offices have natural light. I should also mention that all of the windows on the second floor, which is in the school, in the Early Childhood Center, and in the Interfaith Neighbors area, they are all, 50% of the windows are operable. So you will be able to get fresh air, you will be able to open the window anywhere in the building. That includes the residential units as well. When we get to the third floor, because now we've changed the use again, we changed the materiality of the building again, and now we're going to use a simulated wood panel. We create, at the entry level, we're using this metallic orange band, and we're widening that and rounding it at the corner to call your attention to the main entrance. When we get to the back corner of the building, you can see that the band is articulated and it varies in scale, and it's rounded again as it gets to the back corner right there, and it's not quite as bold a color as we're going to use on the front entrance. So we don't want to draw your attention to the back corner of the building, we want to draw your attention to the front corner of the building. When we get to the upper floor, we also articulate the band, and you can see that it has somewhat of a sculptural effect separating the second floor institutional uses from the third floor residential uses. We're going to use a dark simulated wood as that banding material on the upper floor, and that's going to relate to the wood that we used on Parkview just down the street. And then the bottom of the building is the body of the third floor of the building will be a lighter colored simulated wood, giving you a much different level of articulation and texture to the residential floors versus the institutional floors versus the transparent first floor. So that's how we envisioned the building. I think it works. There were some questions about, are we articulating the corners of the building? We're definitely articulating the main entry corner of the building with that giant metal band, which is rounded, and it'll have the signage lettering on it. We don't want to articulate the back two corners as dramatically. So at the back corner, which is at the southwest corner, which you can see to the right there in the rendering, we have a smaller band that is also curved. The corners are all curved and rounded to soften the edges. but we don't want it to be as dramatic as the front corner, so it's about half the depth of the front corner band. When we get to the wood bands at the top, we do the same thing. We enlarge the banding at the corners and wrap them around in a curved fashion. When we get to the opposite corner, which you can't see here, we could go to the elevations if you. We get to the southeast corner, we have a whole different situation going on because we have Interfaith Neighbors has an exterior terrace at that corner, which you're looking at the top right of the screen. You can see there, and it's not in color, but again, that the lower band, which varies in height, it actually has a sculptural quality to it, will be the orange metal, and that will articulate and it'll become wider at the corner to help articulate the corner. That balcony there, which is their exterior terrace, and all of the upper third floor balconies will have a glass handrail so that they'll be completely transparent, the handrails. The guardrails will be glass. Same thing happens at the non-banded portion of the Interfaith Terrace right here. You can see the back of the building. You're actually looking at the back wall of the building services, look at the first floor, looking under the covered parking. But as we get towards the left-hand side, you can see that that's the residential, that's the early childhood center lobby and drop-off area. We go to storefront there. We want that part of the building to be transparent. When we move upstairs, we have on the left-hand side, we have a classroom. So we have the banded windows there symbolizing the fact that we want to bring a lot of natural light into the classroom. And then when we move to the other side of the building, that's Interfaith Neighbors space. We have windows in each of the offices. Those are punched window openings with awning windows for natural light. When we get to the upper floor, the window patterning is basically the result of the floor plan. And we're letting the windows, and you don't see any balconies here because there are no balconies on the south side. But if you go to the other elevations or go back to the rendering, yeah, you'll see that we provide relief at the upper level by puncturing the facade wall and having an inset balcony with a glass rail. That provides relief in the elevation. It provides shadow because those balconies will be roofed. The roof will be continuous at the outer plane, so you'll get light and dark, and shadow to break up the elevation.
So like what they call like the yellow on the second floor, like, above the open parking?
Yeah.
Those are aluminum panels?
That's an aluminum band,
So
right?
now I see like these, you say the polished block?
The two, and you can only see one here. If you go to the extreme left, the two egress stairs will be ground face or polished masonry.
So they sort of complement the metal panels?
In a gray tone here, they'll complement the metal
And
panel.
that all the way to the left in the front, that's that exit stair?
That's the egress stair, correct.
So what is that? That is like a...
It has a-
So in other words, it's all open, you can see the stairs?
You'll be able to see people moving on the landings, and obviously there's a door at the curb there. There's an egress door
And
coming out.
that is used for emergency, you said?
Emergency egress, and we
Emergency
can,
egress from all the floors, right?
correct. And we can make it accessible to the residents via a key fob, if they're inclined to walk in and go
And that
upstairs.
would be a way too, I mean, you could make it more sort of like entry type. Maybe, I know what you said, keep the key card and stuff. A lot of us expressed, for residences to have some sort of street.
Well, there won't be a lobby.
So, I know that, I understand there's not a
But-
lobby, but maybe there's something to make it more interesting, I don't know exactly, really are.
Well, there's going to be a glass band splitting that entire tower, which is going to be illuminated all the time, 24 hours a day, because it's an egress there. So that'll be a vertical light shaft that you'll see there all the time, which will signify point of entry, and it'll signify a break in the building and complement the curved and the exterior terrace that you're going to have here at the northwest corner at the main entrance. The lettering that you see there will be pin-mounted metal lettering. They'll be held out from the facade on 1-inch diameter pins. So they'll create a shadow.
Where's the address?
The address is, it's on the wall. There's a little solid panel in the middle of the museum space, and the address is in vertical pin-mounted letters right there on that solid panel.
So the building itself has one address, right? Not different addresses for the school?
I anticipate the building will have one address.
To John's question about the mailboxes, the mailman Unlike my house, will know where to go.
Well, again, at Springwood, we have the 8 mailboxes in the residential lobby. That's where the mail gets delivered. Everybody has a key to their box. We're going to do the same thing here. It works well.
Well, what about for the commercial?
But they'll enter the lobby and just deliver to the museum or to Interfaith. Interfaith will have a receptionist. They'll be able to deliver right to the receptionist. The school will have a receptionist. If you go up the stairs to the glass door, the UPS guys will run up once. We're on the second floor. They come up all the time.
Yeah, but not postal service.
Yeah.
Service go up the stairs?
Mail guys.
All right, so that may need to be coordinated a little.
Well, if we need to add a mailbox in the lobby, we'll figure out how to do that, if we had to for Interfaith and for the school.
I'm thinking about the neighboring buildings, and I'm just wondering, I know you touched on this very lightly, how do you feel like this building matches or fits in the neighborhood and the aesthetics of the other buildings? 'Cause it feels like it stands out a lot and doesn't kind of match any of the architecture or any of the looks of the other buildings around it, other than you mentioned the wood coloring of the houses next door.
Okay, there's not a lot of context for this building. If you go to our south, you have 2.5-story houses. Obviously, this is a different animal than that. What we tried to do is break the 3 levels down and break down the verticality of the building by these horizontal bands, which helps to lower the scale of the building. By having the texture of the wood at the top, we feel we've given it more of an intimate feel. The second floor is the sort of the body of the building, and if you know classical architecture, the buildings typically have a base, a middle, and a top. We think in an unusual way, but this building has a base, a middle, and a top. So we think it relates to the Springwood Center. We're using metal on the second floor that'll correspond to the metal across the street on Springwood Center. We're using the wood because the park view is just to the east of us there, and this wood will be similar in its material quality to the wood we used on the Parkview homes. So we think it does fit in. I mean, obviously, this is not a 2.5-story house. It's a 3-story mixed-use building, so it's going to be a little different. It is not traditional. I don't think there's any basis here to do some kind of traditional building because none of what else is there is traditional. Other than some of the single families, which in fact, we did the 2 houses immediately behind that, so we know what those are. And historically, this site had 2- and 3-story buildings on it. So, and again, Springwood Avenue is the main corridor on the west side. The buildings on the main avenue, from a planning perspective, should be a little bit grander in scale than the buildings as you move away from the main corridor. And we think this building does that.
Yeah, it's not the scale of the building that concerns me. It's just the look of it. But I understand. I get where you're coming from. I just disagree, but it's okay.
I actually feel the same way, James. The scaling, the massing, the kind of the feel you get from it, I like a lot. For me, it's that there's so many different materials, and if I just look at the first 2 floors, it seems very cohesive to me. Then that 3rd floor almost feels like it was an addition. It feels like it's totally different materials, and when I look at it, it's almost a little jarring that it's so different from the first 2.
And
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
That was intentional. We wanted the 3rd
from
floor to have a
use
different feel.
standpoint, it's different uses, so I get why you want them to look different, but from, if I'm just walking down Springwood Avenue, it seems, the 3rd floor seems very different.
Yeah, I don't know what's in that building from walking on the street. It just looks odd to me.
Yeah. I agree.
What do you say?
There is
That upper floor, Interfaith built the homes just east of there. The homes with the garage apartment behind the single-family homes.
More.
The top floor really ties in with that.
That's the whole point. The Parkview residences are wood clad. They have the wood siding. We're using the similar material here to tie those 2 buildings together. And I granted the form is different, the scale is different, but there's a material connection there that we thought was important.
It's a different brown.
There's an opportunity to maybe think about how the coverings you have over these terraces might be a piece to mix in to unify the facade up and down, right? Just maybe introducing little pops of color here and there to make it feel separate but still part of the same building. So I think there's just like color exploration that
Or that it's closer to what's on the east side of these, the buildings that you're comparing it to. The colors are totally different than that.
Well,
No,
there's, yeah, I
actually,
get the dark
they're not.
brown. I get where you're going with the dark brown, but the light brown to me, I don't get the light brown slat panels. Well, the slats.
Yeah, I agree with you. I get that there's sort of an homage to what's nearby, but I think it is so different from the rest of the building, it loses the cohesiveness, it loses the integrity. And it's further, it's not just, we don't have the verticality of the alignment of the windows or other openings. We've changed the orientation of the material, the color, the texture. I think it's too many steps away from the rest of the building. You can't be different. We want it to be different. It's a different use. It's the top. But I think it's the eclecticness of it takes it a little one step too far.
Madam Chair, can I make a suggestion?
But it is,
for
I mean,
tonight?
it's subjective, the
Right.
criteria in the plan, call for having, distinguishing the uses and having all these other things. But, at the end of the day, we have to feel like it's in the neighborhood.
If I could make a suggestion,
Go
it
ahead.
sounds like you want to workshop this a little bit. I don't know that this is an appropriate forum for it. Either way, I don't think the engineering will change significantly. And the planning testimony relates to one variance only, the setbacks. That'll take 2 seconds with our planner. Maybe a more appropriate way to proceed would be to punctuate Mr. Carlich's testimony right now, go through the engineering and the planning, and then maybe workshop these other issues. And it's,
If you're talking about workshop, you're coming back again, yes.
that's why it doesn't sound like.
Yeah, we could have a DRC.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
Sure can.
I don't see this coming to a positive.
No,
anyway.
and I mean, we have had some other items also, which are in the same situation. So with
Right.
the entrances and whatnot. So that's fine.
If I could,
I have no problem with
I
that.
think we could complete Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Higgins this evening, so that when we do come back, we do a workshop and we do come back, the only witness we'll have to go through would then presumably be Mr. Carlich. I think that's probably a more
That's fine.
productive way
He,
to.
of course, still is subject to cross.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, we'll bring everybody back, but I think that, Steve would be primary witness next time, and, maybe we can accommodate somebody. It's just, suggestions coming from all different angles. I think it'd be more productive to do a TRC. I don't know what board members would attend, but I'll leave that, Donna, to you. Maybe you could facilitate.
There's a procedure.
Okay, we'll coordinate that, and I mean, as I said, I think that would strictly be architecture, because I think the engineering and planning are pretty well fixed.
And all those entrances and exits and whatnot that we're suggesting.
Well, related to the building design, but
Yeah.
unless we want to talk about drop-off.
Well, that's-
Maybe some alteration in the site.
There might be some alterations there. That's fine.
That's
That's fine.
Right.
So does that conclude your testimony
Well, I'd like
for
to.
today?
Yeah, but I'd like to go, let the engineer and planner.
Oh, no, yes, but I'm saying for
Well, I
this
guess for
witness.
The public
tonight.
has a right to cross the
Yes,
additional
as
testimony.
does the rest of the,
Given by
Yeah,
Steve and Paul.
right,
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
before we get to the engineer, I'd have to allow the public to cross.
Yes.
Cross
Yeah.
It was extensive
Sure.
additional testimony, so.
yeah. So if the
Right,
public
the-
wants to question Mr. Carlich now, I think
Yeah.
that's.
Yep. Does the board, with that understanding, does the board want to ask any other questions of this witness today before he comes back? Nothing else? Professionals?
Max, I just like to harp on, our review letter also has the 6 employees. Now, I know it's not probably for Steve, but since it came out of his testimony, that's definitely something I believe that we should have simplified for the number of employees, just because that's gonna change your parking.
Right, because we're gonna have to go through the CCH and the engineering reports, so it's kind of like, if you want to postpone going through those reports, that's fine. That's up to
They're
you.
gonna be altered.
Right.
Because they're gonna be altered, so maybe we should
Twice.
not do those.
And I'm gonna need hard numbers with the parking.
Right.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
We'll do that.
Parking requirements.
But if Mr. Carl is going to come back anyway, can we hold public questioning?
No.
Well, that's, if the members of the public want to come back, they may not.
Okay, all right.
I would prefer to have the public ask questions to kind of complete this piece of it.
Okay.
And they're welcome to come back the next time when you're back. So does the public have any questions that they would like ask this witness of anything that he has testified about today? Huh? Come on up.
Hello, Jennifer Souter, 1403 3rd Avenue. Also board president for the Asbury Park African American Music Project at 1200 neighbors. We look forward to being good neighbors. I had two quick questions. You had talked a little bit about some of the green building strategies you had listed. You talked about daylighting, and I know it's part of the report, so I don't know if you want to talk about that more tonight or wait till the report to talk about the green building strategies. You started mentioning a few, like the photovoltaics, the light, whether you wanted to talk about it now or another meeting.
Do you want to, we can talk about it next time if you like, but we do need to put it on the list.
Well,
So the green you're talking about.
If you want me to respond to the question,
That's fine, go for it.
we're here. Okay, so I don't know who am I speaking to here?
You can face that
It
way.
wasn't part of his
I can hear you.
actual testimony. You
Well, he
talked
did
about
touch on the solar panels.
That's not the full scope of your testimony as to the
No,
building.
there was going to be more, but
Yeah.
we didn't get to it, so
So you're
I
going
don't
to
know.
get to it at the next meeting.
Well, that's, I was going to until John decided we were coming back, so.
No, you were coming back anyway before he decided.
So,
I know how to read a witness.
Yeah,
all right,
that's fine.
let me just say
If that's
something in
okay.
response to this question.
Go
Let's
ahead.
just do this.
Go ahead.
We know that you have a target number. Look, we're not trying to get a LEED certification here. We all understand that. We are not shooting for LEED, but we have looked at the LEED sustainability checklist, the green checklist, and we have gone through a number of items, and we believe that we are almost to the 50 number. We're somewhere right now in the 40 to 50 range if you use the LEED checklist. So let me give you some ideas about some of the things we're doing. We're doing a number of things to optimize energy performance. We're going to have daylight controls. We're going to have 15% reduction in energy usage from the ASHRAE standards. We're going to have a 20% total power reduction usage from ASHRAE standards. We're going to use all Energy Star appliances. We're going to have photovoltaics and achieve a 10% on-site energy usage using photovoltaics. We're going to use environmentally conscious products where the manufacturer can provide the declarations, each of which gets 2 points for each material. All the materials you see in the rendering, we know we can get manufacturers' sustainability declarations under the LEED program. So there's a number of points we're getting there. We're going to have indoor air quality enhancements. We're going to be filtering both exterior and outside air. We're going to add a walk-off grid at all the vestibules to control the traffic, the dirt traffic coming in. We're going to avoid cross-contamination on the HVAC side. We're going to have operable windows, which gets us points. We're going to use low emitting materials. All of our paints and our insulations will be low VOC material. We're going to you get our points for thermal comfort, for the interior lighting, for our day lighting, for the acoustical performance. We go through all, and we're also getting points for innovation because both the project managers, April and Brian, were both here, are both LEED certified professionals. With all the stuff I've just rattled off, in summary, we're in that 40 to 50 point range, so we think we're very close. What we haven't included in that so far is the 3 points that are available for commissioning, and the reason we haven't included that is that would require Interfaith, a not-for-profit, to spend additional monies to provide commissioning. So we have not included that yet. We have not included a building life cycle impact evaluation, which is also a 3-point item. But again, that requires additional expenditures on the part of the client. And we are not able to take, believe it or not, we're not able to take the point for bicycle access, even though we have the required number of racks. In order to take the point, you have to have a shower on the property, and we don't have a shower available to bicyclists, so we can't take the point. So just looking at those 3 items, that's 7 points right there that we're not able to take, and we're in the mid-40s right now. So we think we're going to be able to get there. We're going to be very close to the 50 number. And again, we're not seeking LEED certification, but we have a number of initiatives that we think put us in that 40, 45, 50 range.
Does that answer your question, Don?
Yes, thank you. And will the checklist, once it gets developed, be submitted with the, with the application?
Well, again, we're not going for lead certification.
No, I mean to the
We'll give you a
city.
summary of what we're proposing.
I just mean for this, to the city, not to US.
Make it probably part of any
Absolutely,
compliance requirement.
absolutely.
Thank you. Yes, that answers. And my second question is just when you're talking about the context of the neighborhood, because you talked about the building that you developed across the street and that there's not a lot of the historic fabric left, but was there consideration given to the architecture of the turf club, like relationship-wise, in terms of being next door and the corners of the street?
The answer is no. And the reason is we don't know what you're doing with the turf club yet. We tried to have a dialogue and we didn't get information, so we don't know what's going to happen with the turf club. So no, we have not been able to incorporate any kind of a cross-reference between our building and the turf club.
In relationship to the existing building is what I'm saying.
The existing CMU block building?
As it is today, yeah.
I mean, I don't think we were trying to emulate that building, no. We're trying to create something different, something that's more reflective of the different uses that we have, something that is a little more vibrant on the street. But we did not use Turf Club as a model for how to develop this building. I'm sorry. Yeah, and again, we had this historical study done, and the consultant knew what we were doing, and they didn't find any of our materials or our elevations to provide any kind of a conflict with what you're doing in the turf club, so.
That report was submitted as part of the application.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
Thank you. Nope.
Anybody else from the public that would like to question the witness based on what was stated today? No? Okay.
Now, we also have to have Paul subject to re-cross-examination because he gave extensive testimony.
Yes. Was there anything else that anybody would like to question Paul on anything that he testified outside of his initial testimony?
Right.
Anyone want to ask any questions of Paul? Anything that he said? Well, I'm sure he'll be back as well.
He must be much more articulate than me.
Okay? All right, thank you.
So maybe we can call Mr. Fitzgerald and just take a run through the engineering?
You want a 5-minute break? All right, hang on. Yes, we're ready. Can we take a 5-minute break, please?
Yeah, we're still leaving at 10.
Yeah, we're still leaving.
Gotta get it started up.
All right. We're just going to take a 5-minute break, please.
There we go.
Motion for recess.
Start up. Second.
We're all in favor.
I can do the.
Literally 5 minutes.
Thank you, Thomas. All
All right, Miss Marie.
Computer issues.
Everybody back.
Yes. It's gonna come up, it's gonna take a half an hour.
Got another.
Not good.
Okay.
What's up?
Do we have another?
I also have an issue with computers.
What?
Call me in order, let's
Marie.
go roll call, find out what the problem is.
HDMI's not working, or what's up?
Just
HDMI's not working?
2 or 3 more minutes. This machine, I know.
Whatever.
Okay, I'm gonna start rolling.
Yeah, start rolling.
Microsoft upgrade.
Okay,
It's coming.
all right, 9:08, yeah, got it. Okay, roll call. James Bonanno,
Here.
Eric Gallipo,
Here.
Jim Henry,
Here.
Jeremy Hoffman, Mayor Moore,
Here.
Daniel Shinameo, Vice Chair Goonan,
Here.
Chairwoman Barbara Kurzak.
Here.
Ooh, we might be okay.
Right.
We're getting there.
While we're waiting for that, maybe Madam Chair, we can talk about carrying this to a date certain, so I don't have to renotice. I know what you're.
Yes, you'll be able to do that after at the end of this, yes. We will.
Yeah, okay.
We have to find what the next date is that's appropriate. It'll be sometime in August or July? Late July?
No, it's gonna have to be August if you wanna have a DRC.
Well, we need a DRC meeting.
Yeah, so it would be August 5th or September 9th.
Let me look.
All right, we only have one in August.
August 5th?
I won't be here August 5th, but.
All right, neither will I, but okay, September 9th. September 9th. I will not be here on the 5th.
September 9th?
At night or during the day?
During the day, yeah.
So we don't have to notice the DRC here?
I was just kind of
I apologize, it's Microsoft, not me, I didn't write this stuff.
All right, do you have another witness that is available today to speak?
We were going to finish tonight with Mr. Fitzgerald, if we can.
Okay, so is someone else going to do who's going to do the lighting plan? And
I got that.
you have the lighting?
I apologize.
And engineer? How about landscape?
I got that.
You have that too?
Here we go. Working on it.
I'm assuming you're doing stormwater as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All on his wheelhouse.
Sorry.
Bill, we have it here, we'll load it on this computer.
Here, I got it.
The trash, I. Is it really? Yep. We don't have
Care center, remove the panels at the corner. Just remove the panels at the corner. It's weird that you can walk into the park here at the other corner. Isn't it open there?
Okay, I'm sorry. It's Microsoft.
I see. There's no, it's not controlled access, they don't close it at night.
These or people keep knocking them out because they want to walk into the shop.
So better, yeah. Just take away.
That's it. The only thing that is the fence.
Like under a dog run.
Should be taken out. See if you just.
You would, usually this thing is. Take out these two. So spring it back.
We'll use the architect's computer.
Okay.
Close it like that. This part, that's right. Well, things that you keep open. Well, no, it doesn't make you go open. We all know exactly why it's like that. Why it's like, we know why it was here. Actually, I actually don't, because you can get it, but you but it's not like there's you can't close it off.
We'll give it a shot.
We're ready to go.
I just can't. Is that okay? All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, swear or affirm the testimony about the truth, no truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name for the record and tell us your affiliation with the applicant.
My name is William E. Fitzgerald. I'm a licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey. I'm not here on a planning basis, here on an engineering basis. I'm the applicant's site engineer for the project. I've
Similar to what I
I'm sorry?
said to Mr. Carl, similar to what I said to Mr. Carlich, I assume you're still in good standing with your licenses since the last time you testified for the last project?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so we've had enough warm up here, so I apologize for that, but the machine, once Microsoft upgraded it, it's never worked when I turn it off and back on again. In any event, it's my work computer, so this is the cover sheet of my 11-sheet site plan set, which we submitted. It's revised through May 23rd, and I think everybody at this point knows where it is, at the corner of Springwood, and it's also bordered by Atkins and Adams. So if we can move on, the second sheet basically is existing conditions, and there's nothing but by way of structure on the site. So, yeah, move on. This is the site layout plan. It encompasses most of what was talked about earlier, except it focuses on the lower level parking area. The building, as you can see, is a lower right corner, or the northwesterly corner of the site, and that is just shaded without much articulation. Along the walk to the north, or along the Springwood Avenue frontage of the building, you can see as you go from left to right that there are 2 tree squares. We have that's the most trees we can get as defined by the ordinance, respecting clearances as to the exit doorways from the building. There's also a light. If you look at the second tree square, there's a light just to the right of that. That light at one point existed about half of that distance closer to the corner, but it apparently was taken out by a vehicle. And so in order to provide the required 12-foot clearance from an exitway to the building, we moved it a little bit farther to the east, and that respects the 12 feet from the primary entrance to the building at the corner. Behind the building is the parking layout. The heavy dotted line circling the greater percentage of the upper right corner of the block is the building overhang. So everything under that heavy dotted dashed line, if you will, is underneath building. So the only thing essentially not beneath the building are some landscape areas along Springwood and along Avenue A, and then a thin landscaped area about 5 feet wide along Adams between the sidewalk and the building, and along Atkins we have upwards of 30 feet of landscaped area within the front yard of the building. So you can see the directional arrows and the crosswalks for the driveway, the one-way driveway through from Atkins to Avenue A that serves as a drop-off for early year education. Okay, there are 2 places which crosswalks will be striped to cross from that area to either the refuse area or the parking area. Go back if you would, please. I'm sorry. There are also, if you look coming in from Atkins, the first thing you see as you make the turn in behind the Turf Club building are a number of bicycle racks. 2, 4, 6, 8, I believe there are 14 there. I'm sorry, 12. And then if you look where the architect had mentioned, there's a vestibule and emergency exit in the parking area that's also surrounded by curb and a pedestrian path. And there are another 6 bicycle storage racks there. Okay, so the primary drop-off, as we said, is a 15-way, one-way aisle from Atkins through to Avenue A. And on the right side of it, or the building side of it, or the first floor side of it, are 4 24 by 18-foot parking stalls, temporary for drop-off. The stalls are designed so that they don't take up any more room than necessary. Each stall itself is 18 feet with a 6-foot no parking stall at either end of it. So you share the striped areas. Those are each 6 feet wide, so each stall has 24 feet of area for maneuvering, but 18 feet to place the vehicle, which is adequate.
Is that open alleyway, is that open space between the Turf Club and the 3-story building?
Yes. So I'm not sure what the Turf Club setback is, but this building is set back a half a foot 6 inches from its property line, from its easterly property line. So if I had to guess, I'd say the turf club is set back around 5 to 6 feet from from the common border.
So that is
Okay,
undeveloped property.
if I may.
Turf club, between the turf club building and.
Okay, see where my cursor is on Springwood? This is the property line. This is the property line on Springwood, right where the cursor is. So our building is set back about 6 inches from that line. The line weights are heavy to make them nicely readable, so they kind of encroach a little bit. Okay, so then that takes care of drop-off. Now, those spaces, I'm a father and a grandfather, and because I work for myself and and everyone else has employers, I'm the only one that doesn't have to be to work. So I've done my fair share of dropping off either kids or grandchildren over the years, and I've noticed that the mornings drop-offs typically span almost 2 hours because parents have to be to work at all different times. So those that are driving, I've rarely seen it, and I've been at a number of schools over a lot of years, rarely seen everybody there at the same time or even within, 5-10 minutes. Most of them, parents start work at different times, has been my experience. So 4 is what we have, and hopefully it will be adequate. I think that there is a way to make an entrance is not that far removed from Avenue A anyway. It's all of about 24 feet, 25 feet from the sidewalk along Avenue A to the entrance to the building. So I'm not even sure, from a convenience point of view, it needs a whole nother door. As I said, it's under a it's on a covered walkway for about 20 feet is all it is, 25 feet. In any event, that one-way aisle provides for a drop-off and provides for the typical kinds of loading, unloading that an office building would take, which is fundamentally Amazon-type deliveries or UPS or mail-type deliveries. And those vehicles can park there also because, again, the pickup drop-off for the school, early childhood schooling, is going to be early in the morning and late in the afternoon. And there should almost always be spaces available in those temporary slots during the day to accommodate small vehicles like vans, drop-off vans. The parking area for the residents is a dedicated parking area with a two-way driveway from Avenue A. And there's parking stalls will be loop stalls to accommodate the structure columns holding up the building, as well as to make sure people park. Loop stalls are always a good idea, whether they have columns in them or not. It just makes people kind of align themselves, or encourages, it doesn't make them, encourages them to align themselves within the parking stalls really well.
So the drop-off areas will also be used for building deliveries?
They can, sure.
And will they also be used for trash pickup?
No. Trash pickup, okay, so if you go over to Atkins Avenue and you see the one-way arrow driveway in for the drop-off, you'll see, it's not a rectangular, but it's not triangular either, it's a trapezoidal, if you will, area. That's it. That area is a little bit of landscaped area, and immediately to the south of that is a wider driveway, and the refuse bins and recycling bin are stored within that. That enclosure will be a masonry block enclosure, okay, so that it's not just a typical fence. It actually, as Paul alluded to, could possibly accommodate some type of public art because the walls will be blocked with parging. So. But that area is the pickup drop-off for refuse.
Just so the board's aware, this was something that came about in our first meeting with the applicant. And Don's actually one of the turning radius to get into the refuse area was just way too tight. So when you're trying to get a truck in, it just won't work. Mr. Fitzgerald and his officer himself did adjust it to have it more askew. I still do, my opinion is still, I think there's a big problem with circulation. I also have an issue with where the tenants are going to be dropping off the trash. Like if you look at your.
Well, the tenants leave the trash from the residence or the tenants is managed by the building and it's kept in the trash room, and they're the ones that bring it out to the refuse bins.
Is that including Interfaith and the parking center?
Correct.
So that someone internally will be handling.
Yes, that's function. Okay, as far as I think we have a demonstration here, and I don't know. We can try this. It's a separate sheet in here. So can you close this sheet and then go back to my file? No, it's not in this set.
Okay, so I'll have that.
Yeah, you do. Oh, it's in there. We'll get it. Okay, so if I may, a vehicle like an urban type refuse collection vehicle is a single unit vehicle. Typically, they're anywhere from 35 to 39 feet long, okay? And these would be front loaders. This will be a scavenger, by the way. This is not the City Public Works Department picking this up or sanitation. This would be a private scavenger hired by the owner operator of the building. So these types of trucks have a shorter wheelbase. They have a wheelbase in the area of 35 to 36 feet versus a typical design vehicle that someone like an agency like ASHTO would use, which would have a 40-foot wheelbase. So these can make a tighter turn, and their turning radius for the front wheels is in the area of 36 to 37 feet. Sorry.
While he's looking at that, he did show myself that turning radius, it does appear to be compliant. It's just something that.
But is it, can I ask that
Yeah,
it's dependent on the type of truck that is used, so we have to put that into resolution compliance to say you must use this kind of truck to use your pickup.
Yeah, because we can't guarantee that every private service will use the same size truck.
Right.
Every block in the sidewalk.
Right, so we know that that's an issue.
Right, the traffic.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
I'll be bringing that up.
Okay, so this is the ASHTO design vehicle, which has a turning radius of I want to say 42 feet. 40 feet. And we make the assumption, because Adams is one way to the west, that vehicles approaching this for pickup are going to come from Springwood and head south on Atkins. There's no convenient way for a refuse collection vehicle to be coming north on Atkins. We also make the assumption that it's at odd hours, and that even if there are cars parked on the street, to make that movement, the truck would have to encroach upon the northbound lane for the short time it takes to make that turn. But however, it can make that turn and square off to the refuse containment area, if you will, and stop with the forks down, which are 6 feet from the front of the truck, as I've got it shown there. It can access either one of those spaces with one turn and back out again. Okay, so I'm not sure that's a wider radius than these vehicles typically would use, but this is a design vehicle, so it accommodates them. I mean, you can restrict it as you see fit. That's your prerogative as a board, obviously, but the way we've designed it, there's no need for a restriction. It can easily be done, okay? And I think that...
Right, but when you're saying that these vehicles have to be so long, there's also an additional 6 feet.
No, it's shown, okay, so it's a little bit difficult, but it is shown. Okay,
and it's got to back up, and there's parking on that other side, right? On the other side.
Right, but if you, okay, so if you would, ma'am, if you would, the dotted line that the front wheel follows, okay, that is 9 feet from the curb line on the other side.
Which is in the right of way.
No question.
Okay.
It's on the paved, so I'm assuming that there's, most vehicles are 6.5 feet. So I'm assuming that that left side of that truck, the driver's side of that truck, can pass for a short distance at 9 feet away from the curb line without bothering any parked vehicles. That was why I showed it that way. Okay, so you can, there's a dimension there. It's a little bit hard to read. I don't know how to zoom.
Yep.
Zoom in that area would be great.
On the east side. On the east. So there's
I've got some notes in here. Okay, so that's a 42-foot radius. That's a 42-foot radius turning in there. The dimensions of the truck are all there. These are standard. I'll show you where I got the information in a second. But it's Peterbilt or any number of manufacturers make these trucks. You can see that I've already extended the 6 feet of fork in the front, okay? And he can still square off to it. So we think it's, even if you had to make a small maneuver, to me, that's not a big deal. Now, I can angle it more in a counterclockwise direction, if you will, okay, and make it an easier turn.
Well, that will be up to our engineer to.
Well,
have that
we're happy to
discussion
sit and work with them. I mean, that's not, we certainly don't want to have it built and not work.
No, obviously. So, okay. So can we just review one, just for my own edification? We're
Yes.
saying that Atkins goes both ways. Adams, is that a one-way street or is that a two-way street?
Adams is one way.
One way, going west?
Correct.
And Avenue A,
Two-way.
it's a, according to this, it's not, it's a one-way. But is it a two-way? Because according to this plan, it's a one-way.
According to my plan?
Which one, Avenue A?
Right here, it shows.
Avenue A is two-way.
Yes, okay, so I forgot
Sorry, it's
to
a
pick
two-way.
that up.
It's two-way.
Okay,
I
it's a
apologize.
two-way.
The first survey I got showed it as two-way,
Okay,
and I didn't pick that up, so thank you, I apologize. But-
all right, so then, currently there are no curb cuts on this, actually, there is a curb cut on this piece of land from what I saw when I passed by this morning. So there is a curb cut in the front, and that's gonna go away.
That's gonna go away.
And now you're asking for 4 curb cuts.
Well, 3.
Well, 4,
Okay.
I see 4, but go ahead, tell me.
Well, okay, so the one curb cut on Atkins is one long one with an island to help direct traffic and buffer the refuse recyclable area.
Okay, and what's the length of that?
I believe it's 40 feet.
Total 46?
Please plan over that.
Like 46 feet? No, I'm just saying from how much on the
It says
curb?
46 feet on the plan.
All right, so 46 feet.
Okay, the depressed curb is actually 40 feet, and then the flares on either end make it 46 total.
Okay, what about the one that's on the, coming out onto Avenue A with the drop-off? How big is that?
Okay, the drop-off is 15 feet plus the flares, but I didn't put much flare on it because on that side, the sidewalk abuts the curb directly. So to put flares on it doesn't work really well. What you have to do is, because it's got to be a barrier-free walkway, you bring the curb down at 1 in 12, 8.3%, if you will, and the sidewalk comes with it. So for a good portion of that area, the sidewalk is mountable. So that takes the place of the flares. Making the flares and trying to do the grading makes it really a wacky grade. If it's a little wet or slippery, it's just not a great situation. This is a better
And the one on Avenue A, which is the in and out of the residence, how large is that?
That should be 30 feet, but let me.
That's about 30 feet?
It's
So
24
how
plus
many-
6, I think.
46 again.
It says 46?
Oh, no, that's something different actually, sorry.
What?
24 point
That's what
something.
the grading.
Okay, so the driveway is 40 foot, but again, because of the slopes, it's not a flared driveways, like, not flared
Right, but
driveways like you have on Atkins.
it's 40 feet on the street. So we're losing 40 feet. What I'm getting at is understanding how much parking are we losing? That's what I'm getting at, is to say, with all these driveways, how many parking spaces are we losing off the
Okay,
street?
bear with me, we'll take a quick look at that for you.
Because it's like, when you're saying, was it 24?
It looks like it says 24 over here. It says 24.
24?
24 there, 15 over here.
Yeah, 15 and then you got 46. So we're losing 1, 2, 3.
You should do the 21 for the
Six.
Again, can you just go
20.
one more time just for missing it, sir?
It's,
Do
yeah.
you mind just going one more time? So you have a 24-foot depressed opening for your hammer. Why did you need 44 feet?
Okay, because the curb comes down at 8%.
Yeah,
Has to, barrier free. Sidewalk is right against the curb, it's gotta be with it.
okay. And
So-
just a heads up, you are calling out 5%, max.
Yeah, 5% max. But you're right, I made that 5%, and I didn't bring it up as high in the middle, so it'd be, I don't need handrails and stuff.
Yeah, okay, so that's what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
So you are losing just the trail.
Right, so I apologize. So we made this 5% sidewalks, which don't require handrails.
Right.
Because they're not ramps, if you will, and once you get past 5%, you have a ramp.
Right.
So-
But
so
once
that's-
again, I'm looking to see
Okay,
how
so-
many parking
You're-
spaces are we losing?
You're losing approximately 4 parking stalls.
4 parking space, well, 46 feet is how many parking spaces?
Not quite
It's
2.
a little over
A
2.
little over 2, plus you're gonna probably put yellow
I don't think you, I think you're gonna lose about 100 feet, so I was thinking 24-foot stalls.
So about 5 parking spaces. Right?
We typically use stalls at
Yeah,
21.
your horizontal, the parallel stalls are typically a little bit more.
All right, we're gonna lose at least
No, we
that.
do.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we can let's shoot back in. Okay, so, again, this pretty much takes care of the layout. You can see that the shaded area of the building where we have the emergency egress there is on the south side of the parking area. And again, it's got sidewalk around it and some bicycle storage. And there's an emergency door, emergency only door, and a short walkway that takes you out to the sidewalk on Avenue A. No, I'm sorry, Adams. All right, let's go to landscaping. Or light next sheet, whatever it is. Okay, this is a grading plan, and what we're really doing here is managing stormwater by using the parking lot as one big inlet. So the parking and driveway surfacing will be a porous paver system, porous brick pavers, and those systems can accommodate upwards of 60 to 65 inches per hour of rainfall. Beneath the area, and we'll get there in a minute, but this area has a very shallow, flat grade. It does move the water across to the curb lines, but the idea is any water coming to it, mostly off vehicles, because the only place that really heavy rain would hit are the two areas where they're one-way driveway in and the refuse area driveway. They're the only ones that are not overhung by building. Having said that, even if it was windy, all of that water goes right down to the storage system, which is below this area. Maybe we'll go to the next. So this is an illustration showing how the drainage is going to work. I won't belabor you with it, we'll be sound asleep, but fundamentally what I have is a porous paver system on top, a subgrade of compacted stone, which directs it to one of two things, either a collection trench or a storage bed, subsurface storage bed. The collection trenches all our collect water and pipe it to the storage bed. So there are two storage beds, both in the upper or southerly half of the area beneath the resident parking. And once it's collected in there, it's pumped at a very slow rate into the existing system. And the reason it's a very slow rate is because, as I showed you earlier, on existing conditions, there are no structures, no impervious cover on the site. So the rate of runoff coming from the site as it presently exists is very low. For the 2-year storm, we have to cut it in half. That mandated a pump. The pump is going to pump the 2-year rate for every storm that it hits. So you're never going to have, as long as your storm doesn't exceed the 100-year threshold, you'll never have a rate leaving this site greater than the current 2 years, than half of the current 2-year storm. So it's a substantial decrease in the rate at which runoff leaves the site. All of the roof drains are piped directly down the columns and into the storage beds down below. So as I said, the only place that rainfall is really going to hit surfacing is the two driveways, which are on the east side, the one-way entry and the driveway to the refuse recyclable area. But all of the roof catches runoff, and all of that runoff is piped directly down to the beds. Other runoff could come from snow blowing in and melting on the pavers, running off cars, but that's all minor. But we did that because water quality is an issue, and a porous paver system, pervious paver system with the right mix of aggregate under it regulates or meets the regulation for total suspended solids removal of 80%. So all of the water is treated as to quality, and the runoff is mitigated well beyond any standard of the city, the county, or the state.
Sam, which watershed does this go to? Does this go to Wesley?
Yes, so he is correct. So this doesn't meet all the state's stormwater management standards. It's not, God, I digress. It's not really for a discussion tonight, but like, there's a lot of maintenance that should really be going into the pervious pavers.
Right.
I know that we didn't have the operation.
Well, if we have an approval, you'll get a good manual. Okay, I've done a ton of them, but
Really, it should be, it's almost you're vacuuming, for lack of a better word, you're supposed to be cleaning the voids to allow that.
So that has to be in our recommendations, it has to be in there. So we'll
Okay,
have to
so-
remember to put that in.
So one of the requirements of the state, as well as the city regulations, is that a system of this type must be accompanied by a operation and maintenance manual.
Yes.
Okay, and so you'll have that. I just didn't do it at this point because
No,
I
it's
wanna do it
understood,
twice every
it's
night.
understood, but we need to put that
Absolutely.
into our requirements.
Yep.
So you're satisfied, Sam? Okay, all right.
Next one. All right, so this is the landscape plan. Again, it shows starting from Springwood and working to the south. In Springwood, we were able to get 2 trees within the frontage and respecting the required clearances from egress doors, and 1 light is replaced. Along the front of the building and along the northerly facade of the building and the westerly facade of the building, the first floor of the building, we have beds, narrow but beds, largely evergreen, very tough, very drought resistant, good city type or urban type hardscape supplements. And both tree beds have evergreen supplements around. So it's not just a tree grate or a lot of mulch around the bottom of the trees. They're all evergreen planted. Okay, along, again, the southerly side of Avenue A, we have a very narrow beds, but planted with evergreens. And along Adams, between the parking and the sidewalk, which is marginally 5.5 feet distance, we have a variety, largely evergreens, okay, so that you have a presence all winter, but a varied types. We have needle leaf and broadleaf evergreens, some tall and thin, some a little bit wider and fatter, nothing wider than 4 feet at maturity. When you get to Atkins, we have a little more space, and so we have a screen hedge, if you will, along the easterly side of the parking area and along the southerly side of the refuse curb line. The street trees along Adams and Atkins are in a linear layout, and they're within a 5-foot easement, and they're within approximately 3 feet of the edge of the sidewalk, which I think what we discussed when we had our technical review meeting. So I've shown you the 5-foot easement there, and of course, the easement will be a recorded easement, and the terms will be exactly what you need to be able to, what would you say, access and maintain, but not, you have the ability or the right, but not the requirement to do that, okay? Also then, between the refuse driveway and the one-way drop-off driveway, we have, as I said, that trapezoidal type shaped curb line, but we've got a tree and a number of evergreen plantings in there just to give it a little break between the typical driveway use and the rare but necessary refuse recyclable driveway.
It's in the community garden.
I'm sorry? Okay, so as I understand it, there is something of informal community gardening on the site now. I don't know much about it, but I can look at the vegetation and see that it's got a little bit of that going on. And I believe that that Interfaith has operated Cooler Farm around the corner successfully, and I think some of the use here maybe should be a community garden managed by the same people that manage the Cooler Farm.
So it's not gonna be a paved area?
It's not going to be a paved area.
No, so part of the site already is being
No, I know.
used by Kula as part of their community garden. The idea was they want to still preserve some space for that use.
If I had to tell you honestly, I think what it's going to be is largely mulch ground cover with fruit-bearing type trees versus crops. It's really not an area big enough to do a lot of crop stuff, but I think you can plant a number, because it's the easterly side of the site and the sun rays that comes from southeast to southwest, it's very conducive to fruit-bearing trees. The lighting plan, there are 2 areas that are lit. I've only done the lighting plan for the one-way drop-off and the refuse recyclable driveway. All we do is have 1 pole with 2 luminaires. The luminaires are at 16 feet. I realize that's a design waiver, but there's a reason. And they are dark sky friendly, full cutoff luminaires. The lighting illumination levels and the ISO foot candles are on the chart. I will tell you that that these lights that we're using here have less total lumens per luminaire than the street lights used by the city. Okay, so they're a little bit higher. The street lights used for the city, if I remember right, that detail should be right on the sheet there.
So
There it is.
these are 3,000 K?
No, these are 2,700.
But it seems as though the numbers are high.
Right,
So
these are
higher
2,700.
than we normally have.
2,700 is the lowest you can get, and that's your
Right,
ordinance
right,
level.
but I'm saying that the levels,
So you have
Right.
a 0.1 foot candle at the property line.
Yeah, okay, so I have to be honest, I've looked at your ordinance on prior projects. Some I've worked on, some I haven't. But to be honest, it's very, very difficult to have a light at that low and have an area light that meets that standard. It's nearly impossible.
Yeah, so it might be better served by some other combination. of
Okay, so the
light
reason
sources.
that we didn't feel it was terrible is because the overspill, if you will, is on a public sidewalk and a right-of-way, which is, if you were gonna over-illuminate anything, if you wanna call it that level, over-illumination, that's the best place to over-illuminate, is we have pedestrian traffic. All right, I will tell you that the illumination levels for these lights are not terribly different than the illumination levels on the sidewalk, probably, maybe less, than you'll see on the Springwood Avenue sidewalk by the city lights. And I say that because the city lights have more overall total lumens, and the lens is 14 foot 8 inches from the ground, and these are 16 feet. And that's why I asked for the design waiver. As you know, if I take a light, it's like a little thought experiment. If you take a flashlight and hold it a foot above the table, you'll get a circle maybe 4 or 5 inches in diameter, and it goes from very bright to nothing. If you hold it up 2 feet, you get a much more much more uniform illumination, and it takes a lot longer to disperse. So raising lights typically provide you with a better illumination plan than lowering them, because when you lower them, you get bright, dark, bright, dark, bright, dark. IES has found that lower, more uniform illumination levels are safer for drivers than highly variable illumination levels on site driveways, parking areas. So that's why we're asking for the design waiver. I don't know that I can get much less than this. I will see if we can get dimmers. Some of these fixtures can be dimmable, and the dimmers could be set. I will look into that, but.
right, because we normally go less than one or less.
Well, so we
Oh,
are
Laura,
looking at two separate things. So one is lighting within the
I'm
right
sorry.
of way.
Correct.
And there's no street
Over to the
lighting
driveway side of
proposed
this. I just want to see.
in Atkins. There's an existing, pole mounted light on the other side of the street.
Okay, so my.
Oh, hang on,
I'm
hang
gonna-
on, we're just speaking here. Hang on.
So I get that they're trying to do dual purpose, serving this sort of maintenance area, refuse, whatever, and provide kind of little overflow or, with the right of way, especially at that entrance.
Right.
It's just a little concerning because, we have residences across the street.
We do have residents across the street of Atkins, for
So
sure.
we do want, illumination in the right of way that should be brighter than what you might have on site. Serving different purposes.
Understood.
All right, if I may, we
Go ahead.
tried to zoom in. I know this is hard to read, but I'm going to start down by the lower part of that driveway, and I'm going to read you the illumination levels off the curb, along the curb line. 0.58, 0.48, 0.38, 0.36, 0.55, 0.59. Then I'll go to the parking lot, the right-of-way line, which is multi-line, some dotted, some heavy, some. Okay, 1.09, 0.98, 0.84, 0.83, 0.98, 1.09, 0.71. I mean, they're not excessive.
Are you going to be providing us a lighting plan for what comes out of the garage, non-garage?
Okay, so yes, so
Where-
I
are you
believe
gonna be
that's on the
providing that?
architect's plans now, but what your planner and engineer asked for and we're perfectly happy with is one consolidated lighting plan, because I did
Yes.
not do with all of the levels. Now, I can tell you honestly, given the shadows and given everything, there's not gonna be a lot of interplay between what's in the garage, but it's easier to look at one sheet and see it.
No,
And yes,
absolutely, I would prefer that.
Yes.
And because there's a business on the other side of Adams and, on Avenue A, we just want to make sure what kind of spillage we have. So I appreciate you getting us
worries.
one consolidated plan.
Right.
That'd be great.
We'll also
Thank you.
do the streetlights on Springwood, provided that Hadco can give me the right IES files. I tried and they don't, they're not good. Okay, so I think after that, we're pretty much down to erosion, sediment control, and details, which we know would be, if the board sees fit to approve the application, would be conditions of any approval, to get certification from Freehold Soil and Monmouth County Planning Board and all of that stuff, but the details of the engineering are pretty much covered.
Does the planning board have any questions of this witness?
Yeah, I know there's gonna be variances. Can you just discuss what the variances are?
The only variance we mean that I'm aware of, and I might be wrong, are the setbacks, because I believe the ordinance requires a 0 setback on proper, but we have 4 street lines. So and to make the pre-application conference concept of a little bit of landscaping along the building, we had to have some setbacks there. It makes sense if the turf club is going to be developed to have at least a half a foot setback, which is what we have, so that they can do their construction no matter what they want to do and be able to access their property. And the backside is just some green space for the farm and access driveways.
That is the only variance.
There are a couple of design waivers that we've talked about, but
No, but this is, we're talking about engineering right now. Let's stick to engineering. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so you'll be back anyway with the lighting.
well, I probably won't be, because it won't be me that does the combined.
Okay, well, somebody's gonna have to go through the engineering report, so I just wanna know who's gonna go through that
Well, I guess
next
I'll have to
time.
be back, okay.
next time.
We have.
So, will somebody else go through that, or will this gentleman?
The lighting,
No.
I think.
No, just the engineering report.
I'll come back with you.
Okay, because we have to go through that still, we have not done that.
Right.
Okay. Anything else, any other questions from the planning board members of this witness for today?
It'll
No?
be him or somebody else. The staging of the project, how's that gonna happen?
Well, okay, so on the erosion sediment control plan, which, I don't know if we can zoom in on that. Right over,
What?
8 minutes.
right over here.
8 minutes.
Yes, there it is. Okay, so there's an anticipated construction sequence,
Sorry?
okay? On the first sheet of the engineer, of the erosion sediment control, there's an anticipated construction sequence for construction. That's how I would probably manage it if I was managing the construction, but I can't say specifically how the owner will choose to manage his construction.
The staging plan will be developed in conjunction with James.
Right, we need to have a staging plan. If this gets approved, we need a staging plan.
All applications.
Right, just like with all applications, we need a staging plan because we have, sidewalk closures. We're on a main thoroughfare. Springwood Ave is as busy as it's ever been, with a lot of people use that as a thoroughfare. So we have to be very careful about any closures that might be anticipated, and we need to have that in the staging plan. Okay. Any other questions from the board or the professionals for this witness? Any questions from the public to this witness about what was said today? No?
Oh, I thought of one more. We talked about
Go
parking.
ahead.
EV.
We haven't spoken, this gentleman has not spoken about parking at all, which is something
I'm
we have to
sorry.
speak of. which we have to
Okay,
speak
so there will be, as I understand it.
Can I, if I may,
Next time.
parking will take us a while. I would prefer to have that as a next time because we close at 10. And we're 5 up. So yes, parking has to be discussed, just like lighting will have to be discussed. That will be discussed. It's not a 2-minute discussion with this board ever.
Okay.
So, okay, anything from the members of the public that would like to ask questions of this witness? Okay.
Yvonne Clayton, 908 Cookman Avenue. I'm also a member of the board for the Turf Club. And just
Okay.
a quick question. I know that on the south side of your building, there is a 5-foot separation between your building and the Turf Club. What is the separation on the west side? What is the separation on the south side?
Sidewalk goes to the property line.
You're going to be at the property line?
Yeah,
I'll try to tell you in 1 second. All right, so it looks like the Turf Club is a half a foot off its southerly property line. And our sidewalk goes to the southerly property line. But it is only sidewalk, it's not a building.
No, the second and third floors of the building, but
Oh, I'm sorry. The upper portion of the building, I'm thinking the first floor. The upper portion of the building goes to within half a foot of the property.
And the lower portion of the building?
Same. Well, okay, it depends on where you are. There, on the southern property line of the Turf Club, which would be your rear relative to Springwood Avenue. Okay, it looks like the Turf Club goes to about a half a foot from the common boundary, and our building goes to about a half a foot from the common boundary. But our building along that line is only second and third story. The lower is parking or driveway. Behind the Turf Club is predominantly sidewalk and driveway, not with building overhang.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments? Or I should say questions of this witness? Okay,
Thank you. Sorry for the delay.
that's okay. See you soon.
I hope so.
You'll be back. Yes, we will. We will. Okay, can I get a motion for this application to be carried to September? September 9th without notice?
Correct. So moved. Second.
Okay, September 9th without notice.
okay, and so
So-
that anticipating.
Put it on your calendars, there's no notice.
So resubmission plans has to be done 5 weeks before the meeting, which means any revisions that come out of the design review committee, you know, we have to schedule that far in advance so we can make those changes in order to submit that time.
Arrange that.
Coordinate with Marie.
Marie.
But we'll,
Okay.
yeah, we'll coordinate that.
All right.
Hopefully maybe this month even, you think?
Sorry?
I don't know if we can schedule a DRC this month, I'm not sure.
Well, that'll have to be up to, Marie will help us out there.
I just want to make sure we have enough time to then revise the plans.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you all for coming.
We have to vote on carrying?
We have to, oh yes, we have to vote on the carrying till September 9th. I believe that Jim motioned it.
Who made the motion?
Jim.
Roll call.
James Donato?
Yes.
Eric Alba?
Yes.
Jim Henry?
Yes.
Karen Hoffman?
Yes.
Mary Moore?
Yes.
Daniel Shinameo? Vice Chair Gunning?
Yes.
And Chair Barbara Kurzak.
Yes. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.